Welcome back to another episode of Talking Tarkov. I'm the EarLegAthlete here with,
Hey, Dizzle.
and today we've got two guests on the podcast this week, TrentAU from Tarkov.Community and Afraid from the EFT Sherpa Hub. I'll let them introduce themselves, but before that, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon to stay up to date with everything we've got going on. All right, guys, would you like to go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourselves?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So look, I go by Afraid. I've been playing Tarkov since I think late 2017, if I remember. Yeah. I think I'm going for one of the highest hour counts in the game at the moment. I'm around 16 or 17,000. But yeah, through that time, I've gotten. Yeah, I was going to say it's look. In fairness, we had a lot of lockdowns here in Australia, so I had plenty of time to be in front of my PC and grinding away. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. But yeah, look, in that time, I've gotten involved with actually quite a few things. A big part of the Sherpa program, moved my way up through becoming a Sherpa to now being the deputy coordinator across the program. Alongside Trent, I've been doing the community work as one of the emissaries. And through all of those contacts and the people that I've met in that time, I've had the opportunity to get involved with groups like Sicario and Hunt Premier. I've tried my hand at shoutcasting a few events and obviously been a small part of Tarkov.Community and had the opportunity to go overseas a few times, meet up with the BSG crew, and obviously most recently at TGS in Tokyo.
Nice.
Very nice. It's quite impressive, yeah. Lots of questions popped into my head just right off that, yeah.
Well, make notes. We'll definitely get to them.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm about 10k hours less than Afraid. I started playing. What was it? January 2020. Must have been like right as that massive drops event popped off. I see a lot of people playing, and I sort of just jumped on. I spoke to a streamer I normally speak to. I'm like, "What's this game?" He's like, "Oh, Tarkov." I'm like, "Oh yeah, any good?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, like, is it just good? Am I going to enjoy it for a bit, or is it like really good? He's like, it's consuming my life. I'm like, oh, cool. I don't know if I want that, but you know what? We'll give it a go. And still here to this day, still consuming way more of my time than I want to give it. But we do love it.
Yeah.
So I'm not so much involved with the Sherpa program. I definitely probably bully more Timmies than I help teach and bring up in the world. Part of the Emissary program, so been part of that for like it's going to be 5 years now, I guess.
Nice.
So involved in all the community aspects and things there. There's a bunch of stuff we do in the Emissary program that we'll touch on after. Obviously Tarkov community as well. Afraid says he was a small part of that. The reality is it was kind of his idea, and then he just sat on it for a second and came back, and unfortunately two of his friends who have way more time on our hands and require, I don't know, we call it our creative outlet. I think there's something on the DSM scale. Is that the scale, the medical one that determines what level of sanity you're on? Yeah, we fall on that scale somewhere, and we ended up just sort of building something. Again, we'll touch a bit more on that, but yeah, it's look, we've been involved in Tarkov for years now. I wish I had more time to play. I just reached level 22 this wipe, guys. Still trying to get that pocket watch, but yeah, no, this has just been our life outside of our regular full-time jobs.
Yeah, impressive.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, loads of questions. I'm kind of going through analysis paralysis at the moment. Hearing the introductions, it kind of opens the doors to a lot of questions. The first thing, I guess, and it's going to be arena based. I'm sorry, that's where my mind's at the moment. So you've both casted for Arena Esports?
I haven't done Arena. I was more the traditional Tarkov events back with Evasion and things back in the day. And then moved into a bit of the production side of it. But Afraid, he knows all the call outs.
I will say, fun fact for this wipe. I mean, I'm not quite as bad as Trent. I think I've just pushed level 52. But I actually have more arena games this wipe than I do main game raids, and I'm certainly not lacking in the main game raids either. So, yeah, definitely been a big part of that. And I think Trent's underselling himself a little bit. He has done a fair bit of production behind the scenes for some tournaments. I don't know that we've really done too much with arena just yet. I know you had a few things cooking in the background for some regional work, but yeah, no, definitely put a lot of time into arena since it released, and and we were both part of what would we call it? Not season 0, but kind of the pre-alpha before it went live, and we were playing around with all the different observer views and the different game modes when it first released. So that was really good fun. Enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It was actually one of the rare times. People. I think people think that the emissaries get really really early access to everything and all that sort of stuff. The reality is a lot of the time we don't. And with the way BSG is, sometimes we find out when everybody else finds out. And in fact, being in the region that we live in Australia, sometimes we find out after we wake up and
After?
everyone's
Yeah.
known for like 9 hours and Twitter's blown up and DMs are blown up and all that sort of stuff. So Arena was a really, that season 0, man, that was kind of a special moment where we actually got included in something that was pretty early on. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, it's still a lot of fun. I still probably have more Arena games also this wipe than actual main Tarkov games.
I think I probably have more arena matches. I haven't actually checked, but I almost guarantee I have more arena matches than raids this wipe. I've really been diving into arena. Before I would use it just kind of as what it was, right? Like a way to level your skills and like get some stuff
for
out of
sure.
it. But this wipe, it just with the hardcore stuff, everything changed kind of how the progression was working, and it was just so much easier to just get on there and just grind everything out. And then Ref being so just completely cracked when it comes to the rewards and
Yeah.
things that you get from him, made it an easy decision to just focus on arena more. And the other half of that too is like the competitive side of arena. I love Tarkov, but I don't play it like I play arena. I play Tarkov almost like slow, very slow to compared to most. And I kind of like focus on tasking and just like absorbing what's around me in the world and the environment and all those kind of things. And with arena, I just turn my brain off and just go shoot people. And it's much easier to just get in that mindset of my life doesn't matter here. I can just go and go and go and go.
Yeah,
So
I
I've
couldn't agree
a little
more.
more
definitely gotten
careless.
super focused onto arena. Yeah. Um, what kind of arena tournaments have you casted for, Afraid?
Gee, I've done quite a few, from like some fairly small ones that were streaming to sort of 40, 50 viewers with some still very, very talented players, all the way up to the Hunt Premier League and even some ones that were telecast on the BSG channel. And also probably the largest one that I think I've ever done was a one they did during basically some downtime when they were doing a big patch, and we were on the big screen for BSG with 120 or 130,000 viewers, and that was, I mean, a little bit intimidating for one, but they had some of the best players across NA and EU. So it was really, really fun to watch, really, really enjoyable one, because, everyone was there. There wasn't a huge amount of prize money. It was a lot of just sort of look at me and, what is it? The
Right,
trophy,
right.
the ability to go back and go, you know what? I won that
The
massive, the
flex.
biggest,
Yeah.
most. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that one was
Worth
huge.
more
That
than
one was
money
a lot of
sometimes.
fun. Yeah, everyone was there to put on a show. There was a huge audience. It was a lot of fun.
That sounds like a blast. Yeah, I would love to be part of something like that in any form, even just watching, right? Like, but yeah, so you've mentioned things like Sicario and Hunt Premier. Do you care to explain for our viewers? Because a lot of our viewers are relatively newer to the arena scene. Would you care to explain kind of what that means and like what those people do?
Of course, of course. So, what a lot of what BSG have done lately is they've tried to add features into Arena, particularly in the custom modes, where it allows people to come through and create their own tournaments, run custom games, put their own ruling in, put in observers and mini maps and things like that, so that people can get in and actually create their own tournaments. But of course, with anything, there has to be your upper tier, your tier ones, I think they actually call them. And in that spot, you have groups like Hunt that have been around, that are officially supported by BSG. They had some of the really early kind of arena, like tournament builds, which meant that they could go through, bring in some of the bigger players, the bigger names in the scene, as well as put some real money behind it as well. Give people something to compete for, allow the establishment of teams, and Hunt and Philbo and the crew have really been at the forefront of all of that. And we've seen quite a few groups coming up now, creating their own teams, getting involved in all of the competitions, and And then there were groups like Sicario that have come through that have competition teams, but have also dipped their toes into actually running their own events, their full series with their sort of headliner events that they do as well. So I've been lucky enough to be involved at all the different levels, directly for BSG, through Hunt in their tier 1, the big ticket items, and with Sicario as they were coming through from, a fairly small production team to the size that they are today, as well as some of the other groups that have been floating around that are more region specific.
Okay. And these can all be found just on Twitch, right? Twitch.tv/Sicario, Twitch.tv/Hunt Premiere, or are they on YouTube
That's
also?
right. That's right. So you see, most of them will generally go through Twitch. That I've definitely seen. A lot of them have been trying to dive a little bit more into the YouTube side, just because of the quality, and you can kind of bring that production standard up a little bit with the higher bit
Right,
rates and
right.
everything.
You get a little bit more
But
freedom with what you do. Yeah. Might cut out.
competition scene, right? So you can kind of play around and go, what is something that the audience wants to see? What is something that hasn't been tried before? And you can experiment a little bit more and know that you've got the opportunity to build from something that hasn't necessarily been done. Like, you watch any of the ESLs or the CS tournaments and things like that, and they're really polished and they're really well done, but they all kind of follow the same format because they've been around for so long. They know what works for that game type. And Arena is a little bit more fluid. It's a little bit more not set in stone at the moment. So it's been really exciting seeing how the different orgs come together, create their own events, and try and do it in a different way with different rule sets or different ways of doing their production to see what works. So that's also been a lot of fun. There's a lot of creativity to it.
Awesome. Yeah, very well said, by the way. So those are like the big dogs of Arena. How did you go about getting involved? To both of you on this one, how did you go about getting involved in that circle? Like, was it because you were already mixed in with BSG and stuff, and you just kind of led your way into it, or?
I might let Trent take this one. He kind of has a bit
Yeah,
of
no,
a
it's
longer pedigree in competitions than I have, even though I've kind of dove into it in a big way.
It's kind of just been, I mean, in the very beginning, this all started with us getting involved between, I suppose, like the Emissary program and the Sherpa program. There really wasn't that long between Afraid getting involved in the Sherpa program and then heading into Emissary as well. It's both sort of go hand in hand for him there, but really, it was just about getting involved in that side of things, which is a really it's community driven elements of what we do, right? Once
Sure.
sort of being in there, we met a whole bunch of these people, Philbo, for example, Walker, people from Hunt Premier, were emissaries. Walker did my emissary, one of my emissary introduction interviews. So
Oh, cool.
once you sort of get involved with those people, and those programs are about finding people that want to be a part of that bigger community picture, want to run events, want to do all of that sort of stuff. And back in the day, obviously Arena wasn't a thing, but there was still a lot of Tarkov tournaments that were happening. Sicario
Yeah.
also still doing Tarkov tournaments back then, Evasion, things like that. And so just by meeting these people and being part of the emissary programs and things, meeting those people, you get chatting with them and they're like, oh, hey, do you want to come and help out with some events? Yeah, absolutely. Like, let's go and do that. Let's do this. And then, I was running a lot of the OCE events for Evasion, and doing a bit of casting and things there, helping out behind the scenes. And then, obviously with Arena coming around and stuff, these are all the contacts we've got. So we know that these orgs are getting started up. We knew that obviously Hunt Premier was going to happen. And so, you sort of, a little bit of nepotism, I suppose, but you sort of lean on the people that you've been working
Well, it
side by
seems.
side in some
Yeah, and
capacity
I mean,
for years, right?
right, and it also seems not so much nepotism, but also just like right place, right time at the beginning of something. It's easy to get in the door when that's the case. But you guys also seem like you're very knowledgeable about things, and you know your way around. So uh, I would chalk it up less nepotism and more just right place, right time, and that drive to want to be involved in something bigger. Because a lot of people kind of just shut the door on themselves without ever even looking through the window, right? Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is, like I said, I think I said in the intro, this has taken way more time than I ever would have expected being involved in a community like this. But, the reality is I've met so many amazing people throughout this. I mean, I met Afraid by playing Tarkov. We were
sure,
both
yeah.
interchange degenerates, and I think, you know, after the 20th or 30th encounter of just running into the middle and into the meat grinder, you know, Afraid jumped into a stream. I used to stream a lot more back in the day, and you know, and it sort of just started from there. And then, you know, you keep bumping into each other, and then it's like, oh yeah, cool, you know. Then he's like, oh well, I'm applying for the Sherpa program. I'm like, wicked, you know, awesome, let's do that.
Right.
And then it just sort of built on from there, and then I think now everything we touch community related has got you know, one, both, or all of our hands combined in that effort. So it's yeah, that's sort of how it all starts, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean that's a really big call out for me, and one of the things that's kind of kept me coming back. Like, you know, whether Tarkov's in a good spot or a bad spot, or, you know, a patch has changed inertia again on Arena and it's kind of painful to play, which they've reverted, thankfully.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
community
for sure.
behind it is always great. They're always great. It's really passionate. Like, you get the bad eggs from time to time, like you do in
We just
any
call that the
community.
Twitter community, right?
The
Like, that's just the
Yeah.
Twitter side.
I
That's
actually
just
don't mind.
Twitter.
My Twitter is largely the Japanese community, who are very, very passionate
Very
about Tarkov,
supportive,
by the way.
yeah, they
Incredibly,
go.
incredibly. And you know, even though, you know, the hardcore wipe has been contentious for many, you know, we just came back from the Australian PAX event, and, you know, we had a good turnout there, and lots of people turned out to come and say good day and have a beer or two with us and things like that. And regardless of what state the game is in, you know, ultimately we're all here because we enjoy gaming. We enjoy, you know, the hardcore aspects of gaming, the challenge that it brings, and ultimately that means that you meet a lot of really like-minded people, and that's what sort of keeps me coming back to all the things around it.
Yeah, well said.
Definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
we definitely had people at PAX turn up. One of the guys I was chatting with, I'm like, man, how you been? You know, how's the year been? He's like, yeah, good. I'm like, you played much Tarkov? He's like, no. I'm like, oh, not at all. I said, I haven't played much. I've been, you know, busy. And he's like, no, I haven't touched it at all. I'm like, yeah, but you're still in the Discords. You're still chatting with everybody. He's like, yeah, no, I was still coming to PAX. Like, you guys are a huge part of my life still. I'm like,
Right.
that's cool. That's really cool to see. Is that, you know, you are building those longer friendships, you know, and sort of just really becoming ingrained in that community, even if you're not playing Tarkov all the time. Yeah, we were still having people turn up to the events, which is really, really cool. So
Yeah, Tarkov is, we've said it before on the podcast and probably just in random streams and stuff too, but we Tarkov is such a revolving door game. It never lets go of you, right? It's always going to be there waiting for you to come back to it one way or another, whether you take a month off, a week off, 6 months off, a full wipe, or whatever it may be. Tarkov is, once you've started playing and you've got some hours in the game and you're hooked, you can go play anything else for as long as you need to. You'll always be coming back to Tarkov. And that's one of those things that's, I've got friends that, you know, like right now, one of my buddies that just haven't talked to him in probably a year or more. But I'm positive when 1.0 hits, he'll be messaging me like, hey, you want to run some raids? You know, it's just one of those things that just never changes with Tarkov. I mean, even Adam, to that degree, has been
Yeah,
pretty well took
definitely.
the entirety of this wipe off and just like chilling, doing other stuff. But, you know, we're still running the podcast. He's still involved in the community. He's still, you know, helping me with
I
all these
still
different things
keep up with
Tarkov related.
everything.
And yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
for
I'll never
sure.
stop doing that because, you know, I do have, you know, 8,000 hours in Tarkov, so it's not like, you know, I haven't played the game. This was my first chance to really take a break considering 1.0 was coming, and it's like I kind of just wanted to reset before 1.0 hit instead of being, you know, so deep into it like I always am. I thought this would be a good time to just, you know, do some other things. Once 1.0 comes out, hop right back into it. And I mean that's probably what I'm going to do, you know. I don't ever see myself quitting Tarkov.
Yeah,
I
and
think
look, that's a
Sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say that is one of the things that I really enjoy about Tarkov. Like, for a game that it sells itself on being hardcore and everything else, it actually has really casual elements. And the casual element is the fact that depending on what you want to do in the game and the goals that you have for yourself, you can actually make it as in-depth and involved as you want it to be. Or you can be like, you know what? I want
Exactly.
to jump in and I just want to make some money, or I want to cruise around, or you might go, you know what? I have some time. I'm going to try and get tracksuit, or I'm going to try and push for Kappa, or you know what? I just want to run some PvP on labs, or do something like that. You can actually set your own goal. There is no,
Yeah.
you know, there will be a storyline coming with 1.0 and everything, but the reality is it's entirely up to you to decide what winning is right? For some people, it'll be I survived a
Exactly.
raid, yeah, and for other people, it will be I got Kappa. You know, you
Yeah.
can define it
I
for
finished a
yourself.
wipe with a 70% survival rate and a 10 KD, you know, like
Yeah.
you can absolutely
Exactly.
set your goals how you want them. I've focused on like what my PMC playstyle is, like it's neutralizer or whatever the other ones are. I always just go for neutralizer. So you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, it is it is very set in its own ways. Yes, it does have its, you know, task progression track and things like that, but it is very open in regards to how you actually play the game. And I mean, just if we all had the same task lanes like we do right now, there's still every other player playing completely different from the other one. And that's a big part of it for me too, is the fact that not everybody is doing the same thing repetitively, even though we are all doing the same thing repetitively. You know, you never know if you're going to run into a bush camper or somebody sprinting or a sniper or somebody, you know, you just don't know. And that keeps a lot of that fun raid to raid involved too. Um,
There's just a lot
Yeah,
of
no,
different ways to play the game. Like I think you can play it in so many different ways.
definitely. And no two raids are the same. Like it's
True.
they create memorable moments. Like I still will have common conversations with people that I play with. You know, I'll chat to Cringy Afraid, one of the guys we play with a lot, and it'll just be like, oh man, dude, we'll be going through a raid. It's like, oh man, you remember this spot? And he's like, yeah, dude, you remember where that one guy was here, and then we had that fight, and then we went over there, and then you know we sort of take stock for a second. We're like, yeah, that was 4 years ago, but we
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
remember it like it's yesterday. You know,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of games that can just really create those solid memories that you will honestly never forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is entirely accurate. Oh my gosh, I need to take a drink.
Yeah, there's only a couple games for me and that's ever really got a hold of me like that. And that's been DayZ was kind of the first to get me like that. And then as Tarkov came along, it kind of replaced it. Not completely, but for the most part, Tarkov has been my main game. Um it's funny, we were talking about this earlier. I'm sure you guys have heard of Arc Raiders and it's got its play test going on right now, or like its server test, and everyone's talking about how it's the next big thing, and it's kind of going to dethrone Tarkov. And I've played a good bit of it because I was on the beta test list for it before anybody else really ever knew about the game, like back before it was even a multiplayer game. So I've tested the game a lot, and it doesn't have the depth, it doesn't have the things that make Tarkov so replayable. I don't think it has it. Everybody else seems to think it does, but I was wondering if you guys had any insight on that.
I mean, it's one of those crazy things, right? Like in the time that Afraid and I have been doing this, like there have been a number of games that have come, and the big headline is this is the Tarkov killer. This is,
Always.
I think the inside joke of the community has always been the only thing that's ever going to kill Tarkov is Tarkov.
Right.
And the reality is a lot of these games come, they're top of the charts in Twitch. Everybody's playing it. Everybody puts Tarkov down for a bit, and then Wipe comes around, and hey, look, everybody's dropped these other games.
Everybody's back on Tarkov. Yeah.
Who's still playing DMZ, or is that even still a thing? I don't know.
I think it's dead. Yeah, I don't think it's a thing.
I think it's dead,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's the cycle. Obviously, unfortunate for the developers there
Yeah.
that came and went. That was another Tarkov killer. We've got ABI. There's still a few
I
people.
mean,
that are
ABI
sticking around
is a
playing that.
one-for-one clone, and while yeah, exactly, there are still people playing. It's minuscule comparatively, and it's just did not
Correct.
replace and will not replace Tarkov.
Absolutely. So, and I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? It's that depth in the game. It's one of the things that wowed me when I first started playing it. I'm like, look at the weapon customizations here. Look at all of the different strategies that I've got to keep in my head to actually survive a raid, all the stuff I've got to think about. It's not just like click go and play. It's like, I love the strategy behind it. Like I actually was
Yeah.
really looking forward to hardcore wipe. And it was great for the first 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and then it became not the hardcore wipe and more the we're going to make this really painful and a bit unenjoyable for a lot of people wipe.
Yeah.
And now it's the softcore wipe, and we can all run around with our AK-50s, so it's good. It's life is good
As I
again.
have been. Yeah, life is great. How did you guys feel about the changes with the hardcore wipe? It sounds like for the most part you were on board, but it probably the same way we felt about it. It started great. If anything, it was a little lackluster, and then it kind of fell off into this
Yeah, we
pit.
were so
And
excited.
Yeah,
Yeah, look, I very much dove into the deep end with it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I will say this, I'll preface it by saying that I didn't have the transit bug issues that a lot of people had. So I was able to move pretty freely between maps and all that type of stuff. But
I could not.
yeah, I think many people were impacted by that, and I think that was really, I guess, the thorn in the soul of hardcore for a lot of people. But you know, for me, and not having those issues, I mean, I come from a background of MMORPGs, WoW, Diablo, things like that.
Same. Yeah.
So I was very big on the whole theory crafting and how do I push the ladder and do that type of stuff. And it was really
Yeah.
cool for me because it added that element because I've been playing for so long now that I have a formula to how I do every wipe. Like I know that I want to have stirrup done day one, which I know is not a kappa requirement, but I like to have it off my list.
Fair.
But having to then bring that theory crafting into Tarkov and come up with, well, how am I going to keep my economy afloat? How am I going to be able to build guns knowing that I only have traders that will reset after a period of time? What can I use? What is going to be effective? And do I just go for bosses? How much food and drink do I bring into a raid? What happens if I spawn if I'm trying to go to interchange and I spawn on the far side over at
Right.
ZB12 and
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
gone. So having to plan it all and then that ultimately going away was a bit painful for me.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
there was a
I
lot of strategy and repetition that we put into it, and then it just was gone, and it was like, "Okay, well, that was a wash," but go ahead,
and
Trent.
it's this is from people who are experienced in the game. We've played a lot of hours, so I suppose the key takeaway for us for the starter hardcore wipe was this is something entirely different to what we have done wipe in and wipe out, or basically rinse and repeat since we started playing, right? Like, yes, there's been new
Right.
maps, yes, there's been some new tasks, but suddenly we were playing Tarkov in a completely different way. Because Afraid's not wrong, man. Like, for experienced players, we 100% we have a way we're doing wipe. We know roughly how long it's going to take us to get Kappa. We know roughly at what stage we want to be and when. We know how to build our economy, and it doesn't matter what changes come in this wipe. Oh, we're moving the flea,
Right.
open level. We're changing this or the we're making loot less or more or whatever. The reality is we never go, damn, we're going to have to go on a stash run to get some money. It's like, no, I just know if I play a bit like this, my economy is going to be about here. I can keep myself afloat. I need, 2 million rubles to be able to sustain the next 4 raids, and then I'll hit this and that. So it was really refreshing to have something new and different. And like, that's kind of why I'd taken a lot of this wipe off. Once that fell off, I was like, nope, we're going back to a bit more of the same, but now with extra steps. I want to be super refreshed for 1.0. Like I don't want to be hitting 1.0 and being like, I've played a lot of
Yeah.
Tarkov, we're bored of this. I want to come in with fresh eyes. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, man. I don't think I've read most of the text involved in most of the tasks. I've kept really off that over the years because I'm like, no, I kind of want to enjoy Tarkov, but I don't want to get too in depth in everything every trader has to say and the the lore components of it. Way different for Afraid, who is an absolute lore nut. He loves it.
Yeah, same
I've
here.
kept
The
off
lore is
it. I've
amazing.
kept off it because I want to wait for 1.0 and just have the complete experience as intended, if that makes sense.
It does.
No,
Yeah,
totally makes sense. That's the same reason I took the break was I mean, it wasn't the only reason, but it definitely played a part. Like I was wanting to just, start over, kind of get a fresh look when 1.0 hits.
yeah, for sure. And it's, I always have this thing towards the end of wipe that I do anyway. Like, you go and get Kappa, you get all your achievements, and then, everybody's like, oh man, Trent, you playing some of the end of wipe events? It's like, actually I'm not. I'm just gonna chill for a few weeks, End of wipe, I'll sort of drop off Tarkov a bit, knowing in my head that it's my opportunity to go and get some early nights of sleep. Maybe get some work done around the house and just tick off a few of those other boxes because I know wipe's around the corner and I know I'm going to lose all of that available time again because
Yeah.
it's wipe time, baby. Like we're in the grind again.
And this one even more so, we have, the story tasks and dialogue options and cutscenes and all this extra stuff that's supposedly coming. Um, and it's the official release of Tarkov, I know I intend to hit it harder than I've hit any other wipe, it's one of those things that overly hyped for and have been waiting on for a very, very long time. Um, And back to the lore stuff, I do completely understand where you're coming from because there's things that I've ruined for myself by reading some of the books and watching through the movie and keeping up with the chronicles. And like, there's story elements that are not going to be a surprise to me because I've ruined those things already. Would I change it? Probably not, if I'm being completely honest, because I've also feel like I have a decent understanding of what's going on. And that way, as things unfold and progress, I can kind of like follow a little cleaner. But, yeah, I can completely understand, like, not wanting to ruin the story for yourself and wanting to have this fresh take on everything as it happens and unfolds, and as you see these cutscenes and these situations take place, you don't know you don't know what they are, and you don't know why they're happening, but you're, driven a little bit heavier into finding out why. And that's a
For
pretty
sure.
awesome feeling. And it's one of those things that I kinda wish I would've held back on, but, for the sake of creating content and doing this and that and just falling in love with Tarkov over the years, it's kinda, like, pushed itself onto me, and I don't like, again, I don't think I would take it back or anything. I've loved that I've learned what I've learned, but I am a little upset with myself that, so much of the story could potentially be ruined based off endings of
Look,
certain things that I know and, things like that. But it's not a big deal. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I love everything that I've learned. So if
I
anything,
don't.
it added more questions to my repertoire of like or my sheet. It's like
Right.
there's a lot.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to ruin. Like, of course, there's going to be some parts of that story, like you said, that but knowing BSG, like, I think you're still going to be in for a lot.
Yeah.
I think
They
so.
are, they're a company who on one side can't fix a small, long-standing bug for 7 years or 5 years that drives us all mental, and we're like, guys.
Might cut out.
On the other side, like, they have some of the most detailed maps, incredible stories, universe that's just been, built around the Tarkov universe, right? And over
Yeah.
multiple games as well.
Yeah.
Right,
And of
right,
course,
right.
more games into the future, the books, the Raid series, Chronicles of Rizzy. And in speaking to speaking to a lot of the developers and people behind this, they are I suppose that's maybe one of the opportunities that we get as being part of the community team that a lot of people don't, but like they are a super passionate bunch of people. Like, we've got players that live and breathe Tarkov, and I mean these guys, it's their job to live and breathe Tarkov, but you can tell they live and breathe Tarkov
Right.
even outside of that. Like there are people that work at BSG these days who played Tarkov. Like they were Tarkov players that aspired to go and work at BSG and continue that work on the game. So
So cool.
yeah, it's incredible. And I really do think we're gonna be in for some surprises. They've been cooking, man. Like it's gonna be good.
Yeah, it seems like it. Definitely seems like it. After
Well,
PAX West, we had go ahead.
on the passion side, I was just gonna say you can just tell by the game itself and by the world that they've built. Like you don't get that without being very, very passionate and very detailed and just it's what separates it, I think, from a lot of other games and a lot of other like just like movies and even like TV shows. Like Tarkov is huge and the world they've created is just it's insanely like detailed and you can tell it's really cared about and they've done
And
so good at it.
it's rare that it happens these days, right? Like any triple A studio. And look, the reality is like they're probably making enough money that they're kind of considered more close to a triple A studio and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Um, BSG have always been making the game they want to make. Sometimes they've
Yeah.
fallen off those tracks a little bit. They've definitely listened to the community too much or not enough or whatever. But the reality is they're not bound by any major corporation or any other company to be like, no, hey, listen, like, if BSG was part of something like that, like if Tencent or someone owned BSG, Tarkov would have been released 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Because they would have
Yep.
had an absolute deadline for 1.0 release. They would have kept to the schedule, cut all these features, cut all this stuff that they, don't want to do. And that's what we would have got. We would have got
Yeah,
ABI.
throw as many transactions as you can in it while it's popular, get as much money
Yeah,
out of it as you
absolutely.
can. Yeah, that would have been the bottom line.
And it's, and I guess a fun little anecdote, just reinforcing what Trent was saying about the fact that I know it's a bit of a running joke, particularly in the OCE community, about, do BSG even play their own game? And I remember, and I'm going to dob him in for this. When Applesor first joined the team, gee, it's got to be what, 4 years ago now, 5 years ago, Trent. I
Yeah,
can't. It's
yeah,
been
4 or 5.
been a long while, and I was sort of involved in the Sherpa program at that point as well when he came in and got a bit more involved in the community programs, and we both realized that we could play on the Russia East servers. Well, at the time they weren't actually combined, so we went, you know what, let's jump in and we'll play some games. And I said, yeah, cool, great, that'd be good. What do you want? Where do you want to go? What map do you want to play? And he goes, oh, I'd like to go to Shoreline. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went in. You know, I've grabbed a sniper rifle. I'm like, yeah, I'll try and do some, you know, Shooter Born in Heaven. And I had an SR-25, I think. And we've jumped into the raid. I've gone and grabbed a coffee, and I came back and we loaded in. And I turn around to Apple, and he's standing there with a mutant, an Alton, a Hex, and then just immediately beeline straight at the dorms to go and throw down. And I was like, what is happening right now? I thought BSG were meant to be like these slow, methodical players, and he was like, no, into the fire pit, off we go.
Yeah. Yeah, you would expect them to be wanting to like absorb the world around them that they've created and put all this time into. To hear that they just like, nope, you know, fuck that. We're going straight to it. Like, it's fight time. That's awesome. I love to hear that. That's sick. But yeah, and like you can see the passion just in the world building, right? Like, it's so visible with the, you know, the work that they put into the way the world looks and everything. You know, you've got this gritty ruggedness to it that's still, you know, for the engine that it's on, absolutely gorgeous. And they put work into things that shouldn't really matter to a game like Tarkov, but like the skybox and weather and like all these things that just help you feel more and more immersed into the game. I mean, for anybody to sit there and say that BSG in any scope or scale lacks passion for this game is bizarre. But you know, you do see those kind of things all the time. You see, like you said, people always asking, like, does BSG even play this game? Blah blah blah. But yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that we have potentially, if not the best, um, developers in the game to make what they're making. You know, like no other studio could bring you what Tarkov is the way that Tarkov is. And that says a lot.
You make a really good point there when you say that, you know, they're passionate about it. And I think that kind of extends to everyone, right? The people that are like the people that get angry at BSG and the people that you know, are frustrated by BSG. Again, that comes from a place where they were really passionate. It was something that was a big part of their lives or a big part of their recreational time, at least. And because they were so passionate about it, it's why you see the levels of frustration, the types of feedback that you get, and why, you know, you see Nikita jumping in and having a bit of banter with people on Twitter as well, or X, because everyone involved in it is so passionate, and sometimes that clashes in the middle. And sometimes even myself, I have to step back and go, am I angry about this because I really, really cared about it? Or am I angry about this because, you know, it's something that is coming from somewhere else and I'm just kind of internalizing it? But at the end of the day, the fact that people are in there giving that feedback, you know, even if it's in a negative way, it's because ultimately this is something that they're all about. It's become really important for them. So it's, yeah, again, fantastic to see.
There's something
It is
organic
absolutely.
about it. Like, that's why a AAA studio hasn't been able to just copy it and have the same success, because it's organic from the community and the developers themselves. Like you said, if a major studio like owned the rights to Tarkov, like it would have been a totally different game. It just, the way it's been able to develop over the years is something you just don't see in gaming nowadays.
For sure. And I mean, look, you know, the pitfall of that is, well, they've been in development for 10 years. 1.0's always just been around the corner. When are you going to release? When are you going to do
Yeah.
this? You know, like we've been waiting for things forever, it seems. And you know, a lot of us are still sticking around. So, you know, again, say what you will about Tarkov, but like I'm still here, you guys are still here. There's a lot of people I know are still here. There's a lot of people I know who are eagerly awaiting 1.0 to come back because they got sick of getting Pocket Watch every goddamn wipe. Like, you know, the reality is Tarkov's been a very don't quote me on this, don't clip this, but you know, it's been a fairly repetitive game for some years now. I'm not
No, it
surprised
is.
people
It
want
is.
to do some other shit.
Right.
But it's, you know, we're all still waiting, you know. It's
Well,
it's like Tarkov's that ex-girlfriend that you broke up with, and every now and then she just like gets in touch and says some really hurtful shit, and you're devastated for weeks. But you know
yeah.
you guys are gonna get married and live happily ever after forever. You know,
Yeah.
Facts.
like
It's
that's
like
that's the
Factual, yeah.
reality.
it's still your girl in your mind, regardless of what
Yeah.
you tell other people.
Right. Right.
Doesn't matter who you're out with right now. Arc Raiders who in 6 months, you know? Um, well, and I think another sign of, the community loving Tarkov the way that they do and, really just seeing it continue to grow with the influx of new players that we get on a regular basis. I mean, the Sherpa Hub alone has shown me that there are somebody's out there telling them about this game. Somebody's pushing this in their ears, Sure, some of it's advertising, I have no doubt, but I'd say the majority of new players are, oh, my friend told me about this. And I think that goes a long way to show that the community is, while tired of the same old, still very much aggressively waiting for 1.0 and any slice of something new, or even just a refresh on the way we do everything old. So it is very nice to see. It's amazing. And
This
more about. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, there definitely has still been a fair influx of new players. As the closer we've been getting to 1.0, particularly around when things have been sort of, they started announcing it. Afraid, I think you'll agree. Like, we've seen a lot of, like, really fresh players. And I'm talking players you'll run into that have bought extra magazines for their extra 10 rounders for their SKS.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
But we're starting to see a little bit more of that. These new players are picking up, and I think maybe they just want a little bit of a dabble before 1.0 hits.
Yeah. And I mean, that could be a multitude of reasonings too. Like, I've got a few friends that I know said, "Oh, I don't feel like checking out Tarkov. I watched it 2 years ago and I watched it last week and it looks the same type scenario." And they're just like, maybe later. And then recently some of those guys have gotten in and I've been helping them along with raids and things. So it's just cool to see, Tarkov again has not been forgotten even by people that haven't picked it up and played it, which is cool. But yeah, as for community stuff and the Tarkov community side, the Tarkov.Community side, um, what kind of what kind of inspired you guys to create the community website? Was it I'll just let you take off from there.
It's yeah,
So
so it's sort of no. I'll let Afraid go because he was the beginning.
yeah, so look, I guess the genesis before the talented people took over. The genesis was, there's always been an issue for us, and this is a challenge that we face as emissaries as well. And I think anyone in the community will agree when I say that the communication out of BSG at times can be quite difficult when it comes to, knowing what is happening. Are they aware of certain bugs? Are they, taking feedback? How is that all being facilitated? And you can't sort of go to one central place and say, okay, BSG know about this. I can see that it's here. It's on a list. And so what I was talking with our unnamed third party, and I went, wouldn't it be great if there was a place that you could go that at the start of wipe, all of the known issues, you could call out concerns, you could make sure that they were visible to the community, that people from BSG could see it as well. And it originally started off the back of a Google Doc that we used to run in the emissary chat. So right at the very beginning, we would all get into this Google Doc and we would write up, we know this issue, who's it impacting, has it been resolved, is it being worked on, whatever it might be, what's the status? And that was really just contained to that channel with 70 odd people in it. And so we're saying, what if there was a way of doing this where people could come together, democratize that feedback, have BSG aware of it, and the first iteration of it was actually a Discord bot. So we made a Discord bot that you could go in, you could flick through a list of all of the known issues, there would be updates on it and that type of thing. But again, that was very limited. You had to be on one of the servers that had that bot, you had to know about it, and you had to do all of that. So it was kind of like breaking out of the original emissary chat. And then we went, well, what if it was a website? So we went and basically picked up the Tarkov.Community website and went, okay, well, we need something that is sort of like a Reddit or a wiki or some kind of format that people can come into and they can add detail into. And that was sort of the point where I'm like, well, you know what? I'm out of my depth now. I don't know what's happening here. And our partner in crime, he kind of picked it up and ran with it a little bit. And then, we were working on that for, geez, Trent, it must have been, what, 2 or 3 weeks? Because I remember you were really busy with other things at the time. And then you came in and you said, why don't we use this? And then, yeah, you jumped in and kind of scaled it massively from there.
It's you guys were building a really, really cool thing, and it was always one of those our unnamed third party, he's I wouldn't say he's a perfectionist, but he wants to get things right, all that sort of stuff. And like, you guys have been working pretty frantically on it, but it was look, I, all of this came because we want efficiencies in what we do. We want to know what bugs are there. We don't want to be asking the same questions of BSG all the time. Their time's limited, our time's limited. We want to give all the answers that we can to the community as far as their concerns and questions go, and perpetuating an ever cycle of asking the same stuff and getting the same answers to give the same responses is it's
Right.
mind numbing at best, right?
For
And
sure.
so yeah, you guys were working on this, and I said, like, how much, like, it sounds really cool. Like, I'm kind of invested in what you guys are building. Like, how long until we can, use it? And he's like, oh man, I need to do this and I need to do this. And I'm like, there's got to be something pre-built out here for that. There's got to be something there. Turns out there's some open source projects that, kind of fit the bill for what we needed. And what it ended up is that it would suit as a proof of concept, and we could use it like, we could start putting things in there. We could start putting bugs in there, start putting ideas in there, and it would support a small number of users. The reality is we sort of had to scale that pretty quickly, right? Because like and again, like this was going from a bot that was in a Discord that like a handful of people using, and by handful of people I mean a few hundred people, not any kind of massive scale, but it was really good to be able to bring those things into that central repository, and it was proving to be really effective for what we needed. And then we're like, cool, yep, let's use this open source thing. Let's do this. Cool. Now we've released. Now we're Tarkov.Community. We had a bit of a dev cycle where we had to improve a lot of things. This was an open source project that was for like water cooler ideas at somebody's company, I guess. They made it open. The license is suited. So we're like, cool, let's do it. And again, it was kind of still that water cooler feedback nature thing. And then we started putting some things in there. We're like, all right, this is all right. Showed a couple of the guys from, the community team in BSG, had a chat with Apple about it. And he's like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. We didn't hear anything for a few days. And then suddenly he goes, yeah, Nikita loves this. Excuse me?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what
Okay,
you wanna hear.
well, right. And then he's like, yeah, hey, can we start like talking about this? I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, but I don't know. At this point, we had some theoretical numbers as to how many users we could sustain. Let's just say there was a lot of development work that happened fairly rapidly after that, to
I would
ensure
imagine.
that we wouldn't get the old hug of death. Right? There's nothing worse, and again, this is all about bridging a gap. I think we can agree that over the years, and that the fact that the fact that Afraid had even started going down this path of being like, we need to like start putting this information together in a central spot, speaks volumes for the sentiment towards BSG, that there's been a lack of communication, or it's not always the best, or it's only via Twitter, or it's only via this
Yeah.
channel or whatever.
Reddit
There's no
or,
central spot for right. There's no central spot for it. So I think it speaks volumes for that. And we were like, yeah, cool. We really don't want this to be announced by BSG and then fall over for BSG. Like, if they were to tweet out about it and then it's just down for 6 hours because we broke it, like,
right.
it doesn't work. So we went through a lot of testing, and got it to a point where we're like, yeah, I think we're kind of good for this. And then I think we were getting ready to go to bed one night, get a message. It's like, yeah, cool, Nikita's going to tweet out about this in like an hour. I'm like, cool, it's 3 a.m. in the middle of the week. I need to like wake up for work in 5 hours. Oh, okay. No worries. And off we went. And so far, it's,
That's
there's been no
wild.
major issues. We've collected a bunch of information, and, we saw a lot of things, especially in the early days of it, get as stuff that was, long running bits of, bugs or problems and things like that were actually getting addressed pretty rapidly. I will say probably hardcore wipe has not been the wipe for having an exceptional amount of feedback to be actioned. Purely because the hardcore wipe's kind of just been like here, players, please just keep yourself occupied. We're still frantically
Right.
working on 1.0. We need to get this ready. We've set ourselves a deadline now. So a lot of that information has been kept there. We're sort of talking at the moment as to how we segregate off some of those ideas. They're not terrible ideas, a lot of them, but there's a lot of stuff on there at the moment that is like relevant to only prior versions, only hardcore wipe, only the softcore components, things like that. So there's a lot of cleanup and a lot of stuff we're planning to do as sort of our own, not a wipe as such, but being prepared for 1.0 as well. There's a few updates we want to release on there as well that we've sort of been sitting on for a little while. So it's been a little bit dormant recently, just because there's not much I can give BSG to be like, hey, we need feedback on this, because
Right.
they're in a code freeze. They're literally sitting there and they're like, yep, nope, we are version locked for 1.0. This is what we're going to release. The reality is, I think there's going to be a shitload of feedback from 1.0. And I do encourage everybody to get on Tarkov Community. And if there is, feedback you have about that wipe, please pop it in there, because it's really become a main resource for BSG, and getting good feedback from the community. And especially you can upvote things, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
Right.
Yeah, that
there's
was
there's
the
lots of
best thing you did. Yeah,
right,
having
and
the
there's
upvote.
lots of really cool
Self-prioritize things.
ideas, but having that priority for BSG, because again, Twitter, Reddit, DMs they get, all the various regional discords, information from the emissaries, information from the Sherpas, information they get from content creators directly DMing them, Pestilli killing the Mosin again, all of these things. I'm still salty about that, by the way. Love you, Pest, but seriously, bro. All of that stuff over years. It's again, there was no central spot for it. They've got their own central bug repositories and stuff. Like it's great.
Right.
Their documentation's fantastic. But too much information, too many sources, too many people screaming about what's actually a
Right.
priority and what the community wants. Like the survey system in game has been fantastic for them.
Yeah.
Again, helping do some stuff, but it took them ages to implement that. So yeah, I guess we sort of ran with this as they're taking too long to do it. We just need to have something like this. And the feedback we got from Nikita was like, yeah, we always wanted to do something like this. I'm like, brother, you're about to release the game. You should have done this like 10 years ago. How great would that have been? So, a little late to the party, but still proving to be valuable at this point in time.
Yeah, I
Well,
can't understate how just of a great and amazing of a site Tarkov.Community is. We've pumped it out as much as we can. I know we're not like huge creators or anything, but we tell as many people as we can about it.
yeah, we
It
use the shit
is,
out of it like all the time.
yeah, it's a phenomenal way to break through all the mud, all the nonsense, that everything that's on Twitter and Reddit and everywhere else. It goes your post, people like it or not, some comments and talk about it, and then you get either some sort of feedback as to what's happened with your post, if it's went anywhere at all or anything like that. And then you can also see what BSG's working on, what they've approved, what they want to work on, what they've started working on. You get a lot of information this way too. Like it's just such a handy site, and like you said, it's just a great way to bridge the gap. And it's something that the community definitely needed. And like Trent said, absolutely 100% anything bug related that you find, get on there and just let them know. Just let them know.
Well,
For sure.
unlike some of
And
the other sites, it's like the people that are asking for things or talking about things are people who actually play the game. You're getting people who are like, still invested in Tarkov. Those are the ones who are giving you suggestions most of the time, because people who no longer play the game aren't even going to look into Tarkov Community. They aren't even going to care about, doing everything they have to do to go in there and, give suggestions. I feel like it's just the best place for the devs and the community to finally have like some form of communication, because for so long the community felt like that they didn't have that, or they felt like BSG was catering to people who didn't play the game or people who just hated the game. So I gotta thank both of you, because I think that was the
Sure.
best thing outside of the game since, the 9-10 years Tarkov's been around. That's the best thing that's been done as far as, communication and just
100%.
clearing things up for the community. So yeah, thank both of you guys.
I appreciate that.
yeah,
And,
no
and
worries at
look,
all.
for those that haven't used it, I mean, it's a really good platform. And one of the things that I've enjoyed the most about it is it truly democratizes everyone's voices. You don't need to be a glorious E-size streamer to be heard. You don't need to, it doesn't matter if you come in and you've never posted on Reddit before, or you're not on OEFT or whatever it might be. If you can jump in, create your account link in your Discord, and you can put something out there. And if people enjoy what you're saying, or they agree with a bug that you've raised, or they don't like it, they can up or down vote it. And as someone who may not have a huge presence, can still be heard by the creative director, can still be heard by support by the developers, and that was a
Absolutely.
really important tenet for us.
I mean, because we spoke, man, Afraid we spoke for hours, bro. I literally remember me and the other unnamed third party. I think you would fall asleep in your chair sometimes because we would get way too in depth about it. Like, I'm talking with the kind of people who will have a minor issue and discuss it at length for 3 hours. And Afraid would pop in every now and then and sort of break up the fight, as it were, or sort of become the mediator, the quorum decider. And because we would not do this and put as many hours into everything we do with Tarkov outside of just playing the game if we weren't passionate about it. And I think this project specifically sort of showed how passionate we were,
It does. It
particularly
does.
on a few
It does.
Absolutely.
things. And it's one of our another one of our core tenets for this was we wanted something that was like community driven, which I think it is, but we wanted something that the intention was not like the intention was to be able to have a few things that we as emissaries could be like, yeah, cool. Hey, this is what the community's talking about, BSG. Like, these are some highlighted topics, not to have them get as in depth with it as they did and as they are. So that was a bit of an unexpected thing. But the reality as well is that we also didn't want this to become something that was heavily moderated, or that ideas were squashed or removed because they didn't fit they didn't fit a narrative that BSG wanted to have. So as much as this is a BSG supported thing, this is this is not run by BSG. This is something that's run externally, and every idea is a good idea until it isn't, evidently by upvotes or downvotes.
Right.
I think the only things that we majorly moderate these days is, bitching and complaining about cheaters. Like, we get it. It's a problem.
Yeah.
BSG know
Right.
they're going to fix it. We don't need it doesn't need to be Reddit. It doesn't need to be a 50th post this month about, is this guy cheating? This is bad. You should do this
Yeah.
about cheaters. Like, there is a very rare few people who really understand about the core workings of the game. And the people who know the best about the core workings of the game are the people that make the game. So, random Johnny, like, love you, bro, but like, your idea about sending a higher voltage to cheaters' keyboards so that they've got to buy new keyboards every time they cheat, like,
What the
it's
fuck?
great in theory,
Yeah,
just
sounds
Right.
like,
Until it
but it
fries
doesn't
everybody's
help.
keyboard. Yeah. And it
Yeah,
does. Yeah.
exactly.
It solves no
You know,
issues.
Yeah, it's
And there's much bigger things at hand than like the anti-cheat needing an update. Like, it's more of, in my opinion, it's like the DMA stuff that's like much bigger issue, and those things are so overlooked half the time. It's just like, oh, this guy's doing this very blatant, obvious cheat. It's like, yeah, that'll get patched out. It's this cat and mouse game every time, back and forth of like, we'll patch this hole, they find a new one, and until it's always going to be that way. But there's other things that I think are take higher precedence when it comes to cheating. And we don't have to get into it, dude. We've talked about cheating so much, and I'm sure you guys
Yeah.
have too.
for sure.
But yeah,
Look,
it's just
I will say one thing on it though, and read between the lines on this. There's things that I know that obviously I can't say. There's things,
right.
Nikita said he's got something special in store for cheaters.
I saw
In
that. Yeah.
his tweet the other day. I am very excited to play 1.0, and I think it's going to be a really good, and this says a lot for BSG in this next statement. I think it's going to be a really good few weeks. The reality is there's a lot of money involved in cheating as an industry.
Oh yeah.
The cat and mouse game is never going to stop. But I think playing in that first month is going to be a really golden, magical time for people, and they're really going to enjoy it. So do not miss
That's
out
awesome.
on that. I can't say
Yeah,
it'll
that's
last
cool.
forever, but
Yeah.
it's going to be
No.
good.
We
Right.
were excited when we seen the tweet too. We knew something special. Obviously
Well,
has to be like, if he's gonna say that, that means something. So we were excited.
He'd also tweeted a while back something about, working on anti-cheat in some form or another. And then, there was that whole conversation about, oh my gosh, I went blank. What's it called? Kernel level
Like the
anti-cheat and things like
kernel level
that.
stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, we had an idea that something was in the works. They were kind of working on something to a degree, but we didn't really know what. And then, we saw that post yesterday or whatever it was, and we were just like, oh shit, that's like confirmation of it all. Like, there's definitely something happening. So that's
Yeah.
cool.
So
That's
I
really
think
cool, and that's exciting.
I will say that it is going to be. I mean, obviously, we can't talk about it too much for the small amount that we do know, but
Right.
there will be some things that are not revolutionary, but they are industry leading in that space. So yeah,
That's
definitely
awesome.
definitely keep an eye on it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which that's all
Definitely
we can
looking
ask
forward
for,
to
you
it.
know what I mean? Like
Right.
I feel like they've always done, the best they could to address the problem. Obviously, I don't think they want their game to be plagued with cheaters. Other people seem to think that's what they want so they can sell more copies. We've never
Well,
subscribed to that.
Nikita said it himself,
Yeah,
right?
he did. In an interview like 20 years ago. Really different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He didn't
it's
actually say at all. People just misinterpreted his
We went
words and like
back and,
stretched it.
went over it, and we've fought so many people on this. We've kind of been like the BSG crusaders when it comes to like stuff like this, just because we're realists. We understand that, it's not as there's not as much to it as people try to act like. There's not this big conspiracy, and it's a hard fight because it's like majority of people just seem to just throw out the craziest shit and just they
What
say things they have no idea about. It's really crazy.
And I think a lot of
the
that problem is just that people don't really understand how cheating works and what it looks like. So they see somebody outplay them by, a million miles and they just don't understand it. And they just,
Yeah, we
in
know
their
a ton
heads,
of
continue
people,
to call cheats and things like that. You know what I mean?
ton of
So
people
it's
call
like,
cheats on every death.
right.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell those people, like, no, it's not as bad as you think it is. You're, just not understanding.
Yeah, I mean, look,
You've
it's
also got to
objectively bad, but I mean, the notion behind it, it's always blown my mind that the line of BSG encourage cheating because they want to be able to sell more copies and things like that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the way that I liken that is, so I'm a car guy, big car guy, and so I have a Supra, which you'll see my profile picture and everything, with a custom spray job. And like I like to change up the color of my cars every now and then, which is an expensive exercise, right? Like you've got to go
Indeed.
through and there's a bit of money in it. But saying that you want to have cheaters in your game so that you can ban them and then sell more copies is kind of like me saying that I want someone to crash into my car so that insurance will have to pay to paint it a new color and I won't
Right.
have to.
Right.
Like, I don't want anyone crashing into my car. Like, it's my car. I'm
No,
passionate about
absolutely
that.
not.
Please don't crash it. And to me, when you say I want people to be cheating in my game so that I can ban them so that I can then sell them another copy, is to me the same as saying I want someone to crash into my car so that I can get a free paint job. It's just, I mean, it's
It
it's
is
it's
exactly
possible, but
that.
also like I'm
But
passionate about that. Nikita's passionate about his game. Why would he want that?
Exactly.
right, and the thing that gets left out of that statement that you just stated is the first part of that is other companies do this. Other companies do this to sell more copies. Other companies do this to make more money. And he was kind of on the fence of like, that's not really what I want to do. Um, or maybe even talking about a previous project that I think that's what it was. He was talking about a previous project for a different company he was working with. They were wanting something along those lines. But there's always that first part of the statement that's left off that kind of clears the air on what he's actually saying. And
it's
it's just,
short-term gains. It's
Yeah.
short-term
yeah,
gains. And in
it is.
reality, it's not a lot of gains because cheaters they rebuy copies of the games with stolen credit cards, with
Yeah.
they use people's stolen accounts. They do all of this. So, if you've ever worked with payment processors or any kind of digital retail or anything like that, I can tell you right now, the cost of dealing with chargebacks and all of that sort of stuff is astronomical. It's a pain in the ass. You
Yeah,
do not want to go down that path, and there's no amount of money you can earn from allowing that to happen on a consistent basis that makes it worthwhile.
Well,
right.
and then the
There's
hit you take, from just the public getting,
Community and
yeah,
yeah,
it's like it's just not worth it. And
it's
you've
such a
seen
detractor.
companies with unlimited funds, such as Microsoft, and just they own Call of Duty, but Call of Duty still has cheaters, and the reason is
Right.
you can't just pay for them to go away. Like there's no way to just clear it. It's a cat and mouse game that's always been in gaming. It's always going to be in gaming, and it's one of those things that we have to deal with. But you have to understand that they're not going to have them cheating on purpose. Like it makes no sense to me. I don't understand how
it
people get
doesn't.
that.
I've always sort of
Real quick
said
on
that,
the
like,
Supra, awesome cart. Does it have the two Jay-Z in it?
Nerds.
This is here we go. We're going to add the first bit of drama for your podcast.
Sick.
I have two. One of them has the
Oh,
2JZ.
wow.
The other one has an
Oh my
LS.
god. You have 2?
Nice, dude.
You have 2
That's
supers? What
awesome.
year? What like what?
I have
94?
a 94, which is the
Yep.
LS one, and I have a 98 hardtop manual turbo.
Oh my
Damn.
goodness.
Damn.
Dude.
Yeah, he had 3 up until like what, a month ago,
Yeah, yes.
Oh my
Yeah, I
goodness,
did.
dude.
Yeah.
What?
and then
Ah.
over the years, it's been many multiples. So yeah,
Wow.
super
I mean,
ownership has
that's
it's always been on the cards.
great taste
Fair enough.
in cars,
Yeah.
though. Honestly, like if you're going to do it, you really can't go wrong with Supras.
Yeah, super's the way to go for sure.
But
Wow,
sorry, I just
dude.
had to,
Okay,
when you
yeah.
said that's
No,
your
that's
car in your
fine.
profile picture, I'm like, oh shoot, okay.
Yeah. I'm jealous. Like I'm proud of my Charger, right? I've got a 5.7 liter V8 Charger, and I'm like, I love that thing. But I don't have 2 Supras. That's for damn sure.
If it makes you feel any better, I keep putting
It won't.
V8s in Supras because I can't buy a Corvette in Australia.
You
Okay.
can't buy Vets in Australia, really?
Yeah, no, we don't. They never made a they brought the Camaro down here recently and converted it to right-hand drive, but they never actually released a Corvette down here. So you can buy them, but
Wild.
they are a $250,000 prospect.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, insane. I typically just drive a 2014 Dodge Ram that's rusted. It's my baby, you know. Like,
Yeah, for reference, I'm old, so I owned them when they weren't worth much, and I've just kept them. So
Hey, I mean,
smart,
you
smart.
that was worth it then, because man, they
Yeah,
definitely shut up.
that's
yeah,
my
and it's such a cool car
superannuation.
too.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, sorry about that. Once I just
yeah,
had to,
no,
I
you're
had to
good.
know.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah,
It's a good
I'm sure Frank
segue
doesn't
from
mind talking about
the
it.
cheaters that we weren't going to talk long about anyway.
Yeah,
So.
that's
Right, that's
Exactly.
smart.
Get us
Way
off
to
that
pull out of that.
topic. Yeah.
Speaking of cheaters, no. So you guys have mentioned being an emissary several times. Do you care to explain exactly what an emissary does and how it works? Maybe little bit about it.
It's funny, right? Like it's a bit different for all of the different regions, and it's the program's sort of changed and become slightly this or that over the years. The reality is it's very much just about it's a volunteer position. Like we're not paid to do this. There's no that there's certain key metrics that we try and hit. Like if you're an emissary and you do nothing for years, you're probably not going to be an emissary anymore because you're not contributing. But no one's out here being like, oh, you haven't contributed enough, you haven't done enough for your community. Why aren't you running the Discord? Why aren't you doing this and that and all of that sort of thing? So the guidelines are sort of just around there's 2 parts of it, and one part a lot of the other regional emissaries get to be involved in. We don't get to be involved in that in Australia because we speak English, and things are already in English. But a lot of those emissaries will help translate communications for their local regions and become conduits for information. You'll have Spanish-speaking emissaries, you'll have Chinese-speaking emissaries, or Japanese, or all the different languages and things like that.
Right.
Where communications from BSG are in Russian and English. That's fine; they've got a handle on those. But what does the Japanese community do? How are they getting their information? They've either got to go and translate it themselves, or via an emissary in the regional discords, in places like that. They are getting those things translated. And when you see a lot of they do like the infographics and stuff like that then get translated as well, that's with the help of those regional emissaries that are doing it in their local languages. Patch notes and things, every patch, again, done, approved, checked over, made sure that they're ready on the day for those local regions to be able to read, understand, and enjoy.
Okay,
So
makes sense enough there.
that's one side of it. So we miss out on that because I've done a few Australian English versions just for shits and gigs every now and then. But the reality is we don't get to participate that much in that. So we really had to lean into the other side of it, which is what can we do for our community? And I suppose it's a bit of a unique case for us, right? Like we come from the OCE region, so Australia, New Zealand, things like that. There's a few of us, but when it comes to gaming, like we are always one of the smallest regions. There's a reason we
Right.
often get lumped in with Asia as part of APAC and all of that sort of stuff. Anytime there's tournaments and stuff, because you know there's not many.
Right.
So it's been about for us. Like we obviously run the regional EFT ANZ Discord. 10,000 members going strong for many years
Nice.
now. Helping out with the moderation teams there, making sure that sort of stuff's all good. Running IRL events. We've done PAX multiple years in a row in Australia where like I don't even attend actual PAX. But we'll set up a bit of a meet and greet with people. We do that sometimes a few times a year as well. Typically in Melbourne, just because flights are expensive.
Fair.
We'll sort of do that there and
Yeah.
run that sort of cool stuff. We've run, we've done sort of esports events and things like that. We've run actual Tarkov tournaments, and then of course, being a bit of a feedback conduit for effectively what Tarkov community is doing a lot of these days. We've always traditionally held that responsibility, or sort of the self-assigned responsibility. Like I said, no one's pulling us up if we don't do it. But
Right.
it's Afraid and I are both heavy professionals in our careers. So it kind of like I don't know, man. We just kind of treat this like a job, even though it's not really a job, and no one's going to fire us. But yeah, I think we put a lot of our time and effort and passion into it. Like I said in the beginning, probably way more time than we want to. But the reality is, we keep coming back and being involved in these things because um, it's cool, man. The community enjoys it, and we both get a kick out of that. I think.
For sure. I can understand that completely, I've put in my 6,000 hours roughly in 5 something. I don't know exactly where I'm at with both accounts, but, I put my time in and I was always helping people, whether it be people hopping in my live stream, asking questions, this, that, or the other. And so, like, I can understand, taking that next step up into emissary where you're more involved, especially when you take it as seriously as you two do definitely take it, creating the Tarkov.Community site and just being involved in the Sherpa hub and everything else that you guys do and getting involved in the esports side of it and just being as involved as you are, why not take that step into emissary to where you can, you know, flex it out a little bit more and you can, put to paper and take from idea and put to paper, I should say, and make these things happen for the community and build something that's, special to that area. And it is really cool. Um, I think outside of you two, I've met one other emissary, but I haven't really got to talk with them much. But yeah, it seems like something that's extremely uh, rewarding in a sense, depending on how much you put into it, right? And if you're more willing to put in more time, you can definitely see value in the work you do, which is a really cool thing, especially when it's involved with something like Tarkov that you have, 16,000, 17,000 hours in, 5,000 hours in, whatever it may be. You're able to take all that knowledge and information and put it somewhere, and you're able to, use your knowledge out from your careers, whatever it may be, to, build up this website and just like work together and create something that is extremely special for a community. Especially like you said, a smaller community that doesn't maybe get a lot of the limelight. So that is very cool.
And I think the opportunities, and again, calling back on the fact that I've been around for a little while, and esports and gaming, while it's always existed in some capacity, it really hasn't had the limelight like it has in recent years, particularly since sort of 2018, 2019.
For
The
sure.
opportunities around not just Tarkov but the gaming industry are only getting larger. You've seen the size of some of the League of Legends and the CS tournaments and how many people they have turning up and the sponsorship money behind it. With that comes a lot of opportunity, not just in being a competitor, but being involved in the industry as a whole, getting into community management, getting involved in different organizations that are doing different things, running IRL tournaments and stuff like that. There's so much that you can do in the industry now, and for us, and I know particularly for those of us in the smaller regions, and I know this happens a lot in NA as well, is because we have the time that we spent with the Tarkov community, it's kind of given us that credibility and opened some doors to us that otherwise wouldn't have been there. And while our passion always lies with Tarkov, because I mean our time on, and what we've kind of built all of this on is it has meant that we've met people outside of Tarkov that have talked to us about things that they have going on and kind of given us the opportunity to talking about great example, getting involved in the Exoborn trials back before they kind of went with the open alpha and things like that. Again, that probably wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the connections that we'd made through Tarkov. So again, if gaming is your passion, definitely pursue it, because you never know where it's going to go. I certainly didn't expect this, 6 years ago when I got involved with the Sherpa program.
Yeah, no, it was
Also,
basically just about you teaching other degenerates how to interchange main, right? Like that was your passion back then. I remember speaking to you like, man, I can teach all the new Timmies how to play this map. Let's go.
yeah.
It's the right path forward, by the way. Interchange is objectively the best map, even though it's in a bit of a lull right now. But true believers know that Interchange will see its number one position again.
I think so. Interchange has a very unique PvP layout, right? It's one of those maps that you can just like really play the way you want to play on. Shoreline, woods, customs, even they're areas that you are forced into doing certain things certain ways and being relatively safe about until you get into like dorms and stuff like that. With Interchange, it's just everybody's rushing to the mall, everybody's looking for killa, everybody wants to fight, and going into it, like, you can just go as hard or as soft as you want to go at it, and you're going to run into something. I do enjoy Interchange. I wasn't the biggest PvP guy for a while. I played a very slow play style and just like really took my time, and I'd always be on single fire and just like optimal headshots over just like force and brutality, right? But playing maps like Reserve in the Underground, Interchange at the mall, uh, dorms on customs, even Resort to a degree, kind of like forces you into those things. But Interchange does it in a way that no other map can do it in.
12.9 Interchange will always have a special place in my heart.
Oh, it definitely will. Like I said, that period there where everyone knew where the hotspots were going to be, because you knew that Ultra Medical was going to be full of Ledexes, you knew that Killer was going to be standing in Brutal, and you knew that you were going to be running in there with the same 8 PvPers that you've been running into for the last 3 hours trying
True.
to get that tracksuit done. Absolutely peak. And look, I will sing the praises of Interchange forever. I know it is not the map that it used to be, but the bones are still there. The verticality, the rotations, the cover, the
For
things
sure.
that you can do on Interchange is just not really reflected, at least not in a large scale, on any other map.
Right. Right.
Yeah, Ultramed was like the hottest spot in the game for a while. Like that was all
Yeah,
I
it was.
used to hear about. Like I didn't play Interchange much, but everybody I talked to, that's all they were doing was going to Interchange to try to get lead X's out of Ultramed.
Yeah. It's not so much these days. You can pick up a cheeky little Ultramed key for a couple of 100,000
Yeah,
rubles on
yeah.
the flea. It's
Yeah.
Definitely fell off a little
Pro-
bit. But like you
Probably
said, the
even
bones are
cheaper
still
now.
there. They can always,
Yeah.
get that feeling back there.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of maps and things, and you guys being a little more well connected than the average, is the Reserve rework still happening? Lighthouse rework, are those still coming? Is the Interchange, not rework, what do you call expansion, still a thing? Like, are those things that we were told, are coming to the point they were on the roadmap? You know,
Because we've seen some pictures that looked like it was possibly Interchange.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't
So
know how
that's
much we can
another
actually.
thing. Can I
Yeah.
let me put this in the question too. What about the in-raid trader situation? Is that what you're referring to, Adam?
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Okay,
Yeah.
what about the in-raid trader situation? Are we getting that to the degree that we think we are, like Ragman on Interchange, or maybe not even Ragman, maybe not even Interchange, but fill in what blanks you can. I know you guys are limited on what you can
Yeah,
say,
anything
but
you can say.
So I can say in terms of the map changes that were proposed and the ones that were in the roadmap originally, even though they've fallen off the roadmap in the more recent images, they are definitely still on the cards. The timing, again, I'm not 100% certain where they are at the moment. I believe, because I've always got my finger on the pulse with anything Interchange, is that will still come as part of 1.0, I believe, but they haven't got it on the
oh,
roadmap at the moment. So the I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn here, but there you go, little bit of insight, because I will continue championing for my fellow interchange tragics. In regards to other features and functionality within the game, as in how the open world or transit aspects are going to work, how the traders are going to work out in the game as well. Some of that has been held a little bit close to chest by BSG.
Understandably.
There are some things that we have seen where I think we could make educated guesses around how that's going to go, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit later when we talk about what we saw in the terminal, the 1.0
Yeah,
preview
yeah.
at TGS.
We're getting there.
Um,
We're getting there.
yeah, it'll happen. So
Sorry.
we have anything that I say, like, this would be my guess. We don't actually have any insight here apart from some other dots that we can kind of connect, where there will be, from what I've seen, more elements of things that you did traditionally out in the menu that you will be able to start to do within the game mid-raid to kind of expand the length of time being spent in the raid versus, the traditional, well, 7 minutes is up, I've done my quest, I'm getting out now. There will
Right.
be, from what I see, more things that are added in there that make it worthwhile to actually continue in a raid that you are in to get the maximum value from that raid. So I feel like
Okay.
I haven't answered any questions here,
Time
but
out.
it's kind of
Time out. Hold on. Let me ask a question. Because you've definitely just set my fucking mind spike right there. So you just said that you would want to spend more time in that raid. Are we talking like ways to extend your raid timer, or raid timer potentially gone? Or are we saying transit back? Like what are we leaning towards in that regard?
So I don't believe, and again, this is all like I'm piecing together parts of the puzzle that may not join up here at all. So this is
That's
entirely
fine. This is
my
what we
opinion.
do.
I
Yeah,
don't.
this is
It's guesswork. I'm looking into my crystal ball right now.
yeah.
So I look. I don't think it's going to be extensions to the raid timer as such. I think that they will remain relatively static. What I am more thinking is that there will be things that are interactable that would change the dynamic or the flow of the map. And that could be, I think a really good example is switching the power on interchange, or hitting D2 switch on reserve. You might spawn some things in, it might unlock an extract. There's a couple of little things that change. And
Okay.
I think that from what I've seen, we'll see BSG leaning more into those features than we have in the past. Having a reason that, you're 20 minutes into a raid and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go and do this now because, it's flowing in a certain way, or maybe we haven't really come across any
Right.
players and I want to do something to kind of bring things to the forefront or change the
Right.
flow of that particular raid. And I think that that's what they want to kind of lean into. And again, I mean, I could show my working out for this, but I don't know if you've seen that Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Charlie meme, and he's got like all the pictures up on the board and the string connecting, and
Yeah,
he's looking
Pepe
like frazzled, like he's been,
Sylvia, yeah.
he's spending 4 days just drinking nothing but coffee. Yeah,
Cigarette
that's what
hanging off his lip,
that's,
Yeah.
cup pointing to the board. Yeah.
that's exactly it. So
Pepe
that's
Sylvia. Fuck
that's
yeah.
my working out for this theory. But yeah, I definitely think we're going to see more done to really change the way that the game plays.
Yeah. I kind of
W-
took it as more ways to s- get things done in raid, that instead of having to leave raid to do them, now you can kind of do more things in the raid itself, and it gives you a reason to stick around longer instead of rushing out and then having to re-up and go into another raid. Kind of gives you a way to
Right.
stick around.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
we
just leading off of that, do you think it potentially means being able to maybe complete tasks through like certain devices and things, and like get the second half of it and stay in that way? Or but Trent, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I mean, very potentially on that. Again, it's going to be sort of what we've been able to piece together. 1.0 is a tightly guarded secret as to how that works, and I mean,
For sure.
obviously, we might have a bit of a chat about it as well. We played a bit of Terminal as well, which is shows some of those elements, and again helps piece together some of the pieces of the puzzle, I suppose. We'll find out in less than a month anyway. But
Yeah.
Right.
the like we've already seen some of those processes start happening, particularly with the introduction of transits, right? Like staying in raid longer and having more things to do. Going to Shoreline's a great example, right? Go to Shoreline, clear out resort, do all that, then we'll head down to Labyrinth. Now it's a
Right.
whole new other section, a whole new other thing we've got to do. We've seen it in some of the events they've done as well, like the Korobot event, for example, was
Right,
again,
right.
going and doing those things over multiple stages, multiple maps. I think we're going to have a reality where there is going to be stuff to do past the first 10 minutes. And I use interchange as the example again. The way you play 12.9 interchange was you quickly ran in, you had the big fights, you either won the victor quickly to go and grab all the spoils and get out before all the player scavs came in. 17 minutes was your goal. 17 minutes, quick adventure,
Right,
in and
right.
out. I think we're going to find there's a lot more reason in the future, definitely, to be staying into raids, closer to that 30, 40, 50 minutes, depending on the map.
Sick. That's so good.
Nikita speaks about Streets of Tarkov being one of his favorite maps because it's so lore bound and heavy. And
Right.
I would agree to an extent based on what we've seen so far. Like, it is definitely. I get the feeling he's saying that though because there's stuff we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Like, where does
Yeah.
that fit in the overall puzzle?
Well, I have
Thermal is a
ideas on that, but I don't want to ruin anything because, like you said, you've kept a distance from these things for a reason. So I don't want to like
it's
throw a potential
definitely
spoiler up or
discuss them if
anything.
you want to. No, it's fine. Like, as much as I've
Well,
kept a distance over the years, it's hard to
so
fully keep a
this is
distance.
outside of game lore. This is like book lore,
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go
right?
into it,
So
definitely.
do you know who Dennis is?
Yes.
Do you think that okay, first question, do you think that's the PMCs like us? We're Dennis, we're the one trying to survive, or do you think that's a character that we're gonna meet later? Is my first
No, are
question.
we? I was going to say,
That's the first one,
so
and then I'll go
we
into why I think Streets is so involved.
so we have the answer to this, but it was given to us literally in
No!
outside of TGS while we were hanging out with the team there.
Oh,
So like it wasn't a
Wow.
formal setting, so it's in this sort of weird, I don't know.
gray
Look, you know what?
area,
You know what?
yeah.
I'm gonna hide in the corner and leave Trent in the spotlight for this one.
No, no.
Well,
No, I'm
I'll
not.
tell
I'm
you.
not. I'm not giving anything away in regards to
Yeah,
that.
I don't want to know that
Yeah,
anyways. Yeah,
okay.
I
I'll shut
definitely
the
don't
fuck
want
up
to know
on that front. So I think
No.
Streets is a
Really
very
good
involved
question,
map
though.
because of that person and that character and the things that he had to go through and deal with to get to where he got. And I think that's obviously going to be tied in with 1.0 story stuff. There's not a lot more I can talk about in that regard because again, it's like spoiler stuff, and I don't want to like ruin it for anybody that may be listening and doesn't know, or any of you guys that may have like not caught on to something or something. I don't know, but it sounds like you guys know about as much as I would know on that front, outside of like the things you actually learned. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I do think Nikita was like hinting at how important how important of a role Streets is going to play with 1.0
For
in
sure.
Tarkov.
And like going back to the in-game traders and stuff as well. Like, I think it's always been said to us, right, that like the current tasks we have in game are always to be considered like the side tasks, the side missions,
Right, busy
the
work, yeah.
periphery things that you do whilst you're doing the story missions, right? And of course, there'll be the things you need to complete to go and get Kappa. There'll be all of this and that. There probably won't be the things you need to complete to escape Tarkov. Which Nikita has also said that he expects only about 2% of players will be able to do,
Do you,
which is an interesting statement in itself.
yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel
Yeah.
about that? How do you like? What's your thoughts on that statement?
Look, I love a challenge. I love something to always be striving for. I don't ever want to be in a position where I'm playing something and I'm like, yep, I can clock this every time. It's fine. I think, I mean, he put it at TGS for his little Q&A session there, which, if anybody's seen that, look, most of the questions were in Japanese. The responses were back in English. You could sort of, piece together what was being asked and what the answer was. The reality is, I think he thinks it's going to be like, I think he said he was like, oh, you could go and speak to anybody who doesn't really know about Tarkov, like that's the thing. Like, if you say you escape Tarkov, that's the flex.
Yeah, he said it'd be a lifetime achievement.
Lifetime achievement. Yeah.
Right, which is huge, right? So that speaks volumes to probably the level of difficulty that's going to be involved in it. But I think, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, but I'm a veteran of the game, and I
Right.
really, really enjoy the challenge. Your average person who wants to, pick up a game and play for 100 hours and complete the story and get the achievement in Steam to go, completed Escape Tarkov, I think they're probably going to be a little bit disappointed. But I think for those players, Tarkov is probably a game that's going to disappoint them as well if they think that they can just put
Right.
in, that
A little bit
100
of time
hours.
and get it. Yeah.
Right. I don't know about you guys, right? But like I don't think I felt fully comfortable in being able to jump into a raid and start like doing my thing in raid and having control over most situations until I was about 700 or 800 hours in.
Yeah, I started feeling really comfortable at about 1,000 hours, and that's, like, me
Right.
focusing on only a couple maps, me just, like, trying to get in the flow of fighting and player spawns and rotations, and Tarkov is a game that has so many facets and aspects of it to tie together to make the game, right? Um, it's very
Right.
easy to not catch that in the first few hundred hours, so
Well, and
easy.
depending on how you play it is a big thing too. If you play
True.
solo compared to if you're always playing with a friend, the game is totally different. I played, I would say, the first 5,000 hours completely solo, and it taught me to just be a little more careful, not push as many
Sure.
fights. But then when we teamed up and started playing together, it allowed us to, be a little more aggressive, and it just even being a little more aggressive changes the game by a lot. Like it, it really matters how you like played the game.
Absolutely.
It's yeah, it really look it the reality I suppose what I'm trying to say is it's not that it's not a game for everybody. It's definitely a game for everybody, but there is a time commitment that is required to gain the knowledge, the skill, the understanding of all of the dynamics that are at play in every single raid. Because every single raid is different. Solos versus teams. If you're solo, you need to take a divide and conquer approach to take down a 5-man. It's very achievable, by the way, to do that as a solo.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
if you're a player out there with 200 hours, that might seem like a really daunting task, but um, the reality
Just
is
keep
because
trying.
of some of the yeah, and because of some of the mechanics in the game, right? Like it's actually 3 is my magic number. Anything over 3, then
Too
I'm not
crowded.
there to play Tarkov to, do anything other than shits and gigs, have a bit of fun, laugh at a
Yeah,
few
not paying
things,
attention. Yeah, cracking joke. Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
totally different.
absolutely. Like have a couple of beers and play in a 4 or 5 man. Absolutely. But if we're down to nitty gritty, like 3 and only 3, if it's 3 that I really trust.
Yeah,
We need to have played a lot together and have that synergy as a team to be able to
Right.
understand mostly what each other's going to be doing and how we operate and how we flank and what each of our roles are within our team. So it's yeah, definitely that side of things. Like it's something you can only gain with experience. But yeah, it's not. I don't know. Going back to like the 2% escaping Tarkov, I think I think it's really cool, and I think it's something that only companies like BSG, and when I say that again, non AAA studios. Can you imagine like
Right.
going to EA and being like having an idea for a game and you want to get some funding, or you work internally at EA and you're like, cool, our next Call of Duty, 2% of the players are going to be able to finish it. Like
Right. Right. There's
brother,
no
those
shot.
executives are going to shut that down and be like, no, no, everybody needs to be able to finish this game. It needs to be a really good 60 hours of storyline content, and we need to be able to sell it for $150.
yeah,
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's the reality. That is not something you can get out of gaming unless it's an independent studio.
For
And
sure.
certainly, I suppose not an indie studio anymore. Like I said, they're probably more akin to that AAA size, given that the teams at BSG are actually quite sizable these days. They've got
yeah.
multiple
Yeah, they've
teams as
grown a
well.
lot. Yeah.
Well, that's why
Absolutely.
I kind of expected that from them. I kind of expected the no, it wouldn't be easy to get the quote unquote like final reward in Tarkov or the final achievement. So it's like out of everything they've ever done, it's like that's the one thing I knew they would try to make it as difficult as possible. Like I just always had a feeling that's how it was going to be.
And as it
Yeah,
should
and
be.
it's
I
for sure.
Go ahead.
For sure. It's like Nikita's like he loved the idea of hardcore wipe. He was fully about that. And he loves those hardcore elements. And there was, he did a little while ago with Null 1K as well, where he's like, it is meant to be a hardcore game. It's meant to be really difficult. Not everyone is gonna like win this. It should be an achievement. It's much to the dismay of many PvE players. It's that's the famous interview that he said where um, I'm not putting prestige in PvE because getting prestige in PvE is not prestigious.
Right.
Take that in any way, shape, or form interpretation. I've fought for the PvE guys. I said, hey, look, just give them something, whatever. And he's like, no, they don't want to do it. That's fine, and that's another discussion entirely. But I suppose it puts into position where his mindset is about what hardcore is and what should be difficult in a game, and that what not everyone needs a participation medal.
Right.
Exactly.
There can only be one winner in a race, right?
Right. Right.
And
Well, and
I think
Tarkov
he's
doesn't
sticking to
hide
those
what it
core
is.
tenets.
Like, you know
Of
what you're getting
course.
into, so it's like that makes it
There's
even more acceptable because you're gonna know that it's its reputation is enough for you to know.
for sure.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely.
it's I mean, from your first 5 minutes in the game, there's zero handholding. There's zero information up front. There's nothing to tell you what to do, how to do it, or anything to teach you like how to go above
Yeah,
and beyond. They don't even explain to you what your first raid should look like, right?
yeah, no
You don't
checkpoints,
even
no
know how to
map.
pick up tasks unless you start looking through and you look at all the bars and you start reading things and you know what I mean. You actually click the task tab and you accept it, and then you have to start figuring out. There's no like, oh, go check out the wiki, which there is now, right?
These
I
days,
think there's a
absolutely.
direction. Yeah, I think there's a direction towards the Sherpa hub, even right, or the emissaries, or oh my gosh, what is it? There's a loading screen. On the loading screen, it kind of points
Yes.
out like, hey, you can get some help here and here, which
Yeah,
is
and they
more
started
than I ever
releasing like
expected
the
from Tarkov,
videos on
right?
YouTube also.
Yeah, the field survival guides and
Yeah,
things like
like
that, which is really
just
cool.
showing the basics.
But even that is minimal.
Yeah, compared
Not
to
a lot.
others. Yeah,
Tarkov is in its own league in that front, so it's expected to be hardcore from the time you start playing. And I think that them pushing that more so with the all the endings and everything else, and making it something that is extremely difficult to achieve. I think that's just sets the pacing in the right direction.
Yeah, and I mean the reality is like BSG want everybody to play their game. We've said multiple times they're very passionate about it. They're very proud of what they've made. This isn't about gatekeeping an experience from anybody. I suppose it's I don't know, maybe it's just a bit different these days, like in the way the world is. Commentary on that, I guess, but like the lack of hand holding is meant to be a go and learn this, go and become.
Exactly.
Don't just have somebody tell you how to do it. Like go and experience it. Go and learn the mistakes. We are the sum of our experiences as people, right? And as Tarkov players, we are the sum of our experiences in raid.
For
There are
sure.
corners that I, to this day, will check every single time um, because someone was
So
there one time.
yeah, in
right.
Like,
regards to that, I was doing a session with one of the Lings, and we were going from RUAF to Big Red. And we go right past the tunnel, we hear the bush shift, and I look over, we shoot at it and everything else, don't hear anything from it, and we keep walking. And I'm like, I've never seen anybody there. Maybe it was an audio bug or something like that. It was crazy. And then all of a sudden a grenade lands on dude, and then I'm in a firefight with this other guy, and it's just like I've never seen anyone there in my life. And now every single time I'm on customs, whether I'm coming from Big Red or from RUAF, I either grenade there or I just like make it known that I'm coming that way to try to force somebody to move, right? I do something to see if that bush is active, because it's as you're coming from RUAF, you cross the concrete barriers that hold up the pipe, and to the left, it just goes back like 15, 20 feet and
yeah,
tucks
yeah,
in.
yeah.
There's a bush, and that's it. And I've never had an interaction there until just recently, but now it's ingrained in my brain after one interaction to always, always, always check that area. And there's
For
a
sure.
million and one spots all throughout the world of Tarkov that are like that. And that's
And
to speak on what you were saying. That's how we learn how to move across maps. That's how we learn to start understanding where player spawns are and player pathing. And that's if the boss spawns here, you hear this gunfire. If you're not looking for a conflict, you probably should avoid it. You should probably avoid the area because there's PMCs there. Like all this stuff comes from dying and learning and being brutally just assaulted into learning in Tarkov. Tarkov does not, it punishes you for not knowing, and it's expected for you to learn from the punishment, right?
right, and I suppose that's always like that's a lot of why I'm gonna guess that's a lot of why there hasn't been a lot of, direct guides or manuals. You used to open a game back in the day and it would have a little book in there. For you kids out
Right.
there, we used to buy physical copies of games and we'd put them in a
Physical
console and there
guides.
was a little
Yeah.
book in there and it would tell you which buttons to press and
Well,
how
even
to do
more
the
so, you
first
had
hit.
like actual like field guides for like Final Fantasy games and stuff, right? Like
Yeah,
full strategy
absolutely.
guides that explain where to go, what to pick up, how to do it. It was like a form of the wiki before a wiki ever existed. It was
Absolutely.
in
And
it.
and like and that's like, it's one of those things, and look, Afraid's going to be able to speak more to this, but my understanding has always been of the Sherpa program, and I've spoken at length about this with Afraid and things like that, is that, Sherpas that come on and things like that, and people that are, applying to do sessions with the Sherpas and stuff like that. It's the understanding is like, hey, first and foremost, this is not a carry. This is not a
Right.
I'm gonna run you through and we're gonna get you some money and we're gonna get that task done. Um, you know, correct me if I'm wrong here, Afraid, but it's about exactly building those skills in these players to be able to go and make those conscious decisions themselves.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's about y- because there is no everyone will set their own goals, like I mentioned earlier, and some people will find that the learning cliff. I'm not going to call it a learning curve because the reality is you're dropped into a menu that is not naturally intuitive with traders and a load. I'm sure we've all seen the players that have loaded in with literally everything from their stash already in
Yeah.
their
Right.
bag, and it's like, oh no, I know what's happened here, and their dog tags level 1, and then when you get to the end menu, they're level 2 because they've you shooting them was enough for them to get enough experience to go up a level. Like they're that fresh. Um, there are, it's kind of two parts to it. Like, is you want people to struggle like we all struggle because it creates your own play style, and I think that's a really important part. If you come in and you
It is.
expect to be a landmark, a sheaf, a cool D, one of these, crazy PvP players, the reality is you're probably not. Like, some of the skills and like mechanical skill will come across from other FPSs and other shooters, but the majority of what makes a good Tarkov player is being able to make decisions, understand the flow of the map, understand. I say audio cues. I use that term loosely, but understanding where people might be and knowing what's going to happen to be able to make those decisions. And you look at YouTube videos, and this is the great thing about the support that content creators have been given is different content creators play different ways, and the guides that they make give people that come into YouTube or into other avenues the ability to go through and say, okay, well, how do I want to learn this myself? So I really enjoy No Generals. He talks about the fact that he's so good at the game and so good at winning these fights because he knows what people are going to do. He knows where people are likely to rotate to based on their kits, based on their movement. He can kind of make a really good call that will give him the upper hand. Likewise, you've got people like Jesse Kazam who will go back and they record every death. They record all their gameplay. They go back, they look at it and say, what did I do wrong? What did I do differently? And from there, once you sort of started figuring out your style, not only in the game and how you play it, but how you learn the game, you can then sort of bridge into either working in a community group or playing solo or ultimately coming into the Sherpa program to find somebody that can support you in learning it in that way into becoming the player that you think you want to be. And then over time, you can develop and build upon that as well. So this is why we say we don't want, if you're coming into something like the Sherpa program, you're not doing it because you're like, I can't get my pocket watch. Can I just get, a player with 8,000 hours and a green name to murder everyone on the
Yeah.
map so that I can get that one quest done and then be,
Right.
quest locked on the very next quest that I can't do. It's really about helping people establish what their play style is, what their learning style is, and help them set realistic goals for themselves. So I'm a big advocate for people to, don't try and compare yourself to someone else. Set your own goal. It doesn't have to be winning the game, finishing the game. It might just be, I know that I want to be able to run through this map, 10 times and survive 8 of them. And I think that's a, very, very viable, very valid goal. So yeah, always been really big on, teach people how to think, not how to play.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, once you give them the know-how to find everything and to just understand how things work, even if you only teach them one map, like say, woods is one that's pretty common in the Sherpa program. We're always teaching woods, but like we teach them things like map theory and how to look at these things for any map and break it into a method of like, oh, okay, well, I know if this is here, I must be here, you know, based off this POI, and just finding things to relay to them that helps them understand the maps more outside of just the one. You know, it's not just a generalized, like you said, it's not I'm going in, I'm carrying you, I'm teaching you this one thing, this one route. It's so much more about, and I think that's one of the things I kind of had the wrong idea on when I first got into the Sherpa program. With me and the hours I have, like, yeah, sure, I know and understand the game, but I was expecting it more to be like, oh, well, you're not quite the PvPer we're looking for. You're not going to be able to help this person through the raid the way we need you to. You know, instead, it's more, are you capable of relaying the knowledge that you've gained and the things that you've learned, and helping this person in their first few steps in Tarkov? Um, and that's really cool, to the point that you're able to teach people things and help them, knowing that you've done something good for them, not just showed them around the map real quick and got their task done, like you said, or, you know, cleared out a bunch of stuff and let them got a bunch of loot. Instead, they're taking skills and knowledge and information that you give to them and putting that towards more of Tarkov, and you know, how to go further in and learn more and more and more. A lot of the times we'll finish a session or whatever, and then I get to have a conversation with the Ling a few days later, and they're like, dude, I didn't even think about, you know, breaking the map up, or I didn't think about what POIs I see every time I load in, and, you know, just the idea of like where I spawn in at, what, you know, checking my extracts tells me what side of the map I'm on. You know, like there's so many little things that these players would never know, that we are expected to relay to them in a way that they're able to continue on with that information. And I think that's just purely awesome. And I think what the Sherpa program does is amazing. Whether I was in it or not, I think it's one of the best things for new players in Tarkov. Like we always say, like, PvE is such a good learning experience, and I think it is. But at the same time, jumping into the Sherpa Hub Discord or the official EFT and just looking for people to help you learn the game is invaluable information that you can get from them. So definitely, if you're new, check out those Discord sites or Discord pages.
Absolutely, and even, you know, given that it is a volunteer program and we have, you know, limited resources available, the big thing, and this is why it's really important for the Sherpas to focus less on, you know, being an absolute PvP Adonis or anything like that, but being able to relate to and help shape the path that the new player is taking. You know, you would see that. I know that you have access to all the tickets and everything at the moment. You see a lot of players, they come in and they put a ticket in and they're fairly new, and they'll look at it and they go, look, I go into raids, I have a 15% survival rating. I go into a raid and I'm always getting killed by players that are geared out of their minds. You know, they're running meta
Right.
weapons and all that type of stuff. So I want to learn to get better at PvP. And that's what they do. They come in and they put in a ticket because they think that I'm dying because I can't win fights. And the reality
Right.
is, for the most part, no. No, for the most part, people are dying because they don't know what the map is going to be doing. They don't know what the flow is going
Exactly.
to be like. They don't know how to position themselves. They don't know when they should run versus when they should walk. They don't have that sort of experience that you get over hundreds and thousands of hours. And changing
Exactly.
the way
Yeah.
that people think about how they approach it, you know, it does not matter. You don't have to focus on PvP for your first 5, 6, 7, 800 hours, if not longer, if you don't want to. But you do kind of need to know how the map is going to play out, how it's going to flow, where you're going to need to go, when you're going to need to be there for it to be the safest or most advantageous for you to do it. Because you can always change into being a PvP player later, right? If you can build a strong economy and you have a map that you are comfortable with, from that point, you know that you can go back to that map and you can make some money. You know that you can go to whatever area it might be or whatever scav run you'd like to do to be able to prop up that economy so that you can take the risks. And by getting out of that comfort zone and challenging yourself, you can learn more. And that's really how you grow as a player. And that is not something that happens in, you know, 2, 3, 4 hours with a Sherpa, but a Sherpa will help to guide you on how you can start to walk down that path.
Right. There's a lot of little tools that so many new players don't realize they have access to too. That's a big part of it, is the amount of tools that are at their disposal that they just ignore and just don't realize are there. You know, the wiki, the discords, other people in the community. Even, like, you can just get with a friend and be like, hey, you know, I know you played Tarkov for a while, can you help me out? Like, that's how I started playing Tarkov, was, you know, with a buddy of mine who didn't know how to play the game either. So all we did was go to interchange and never went in them all once, just ran around checking stashes. Every now and then we'd go to customs and run around and check stashes and die in dorms. And we did that for, like, you know, a few hours, quit, and then I bought a graphics card off Adam, and we got to talking, and he was like, oh yeah, I play Escape from Tarkov. I was like, dude, I don't understand that game at all. Like, I just don't get it. I suck at it. I'm trash. I had like 30 hours maybe. And he was like, "Well, let's run some raids, blah, blah, blah." And like, we got together and started playing, and just having someone that knew the game to the degree that he did, being able to like help me understand utilizing the wiki and finding these tools and putting, the information and ideas to paper and being able to actually perform these things. And then, amongst the thousands of hours of in raid time that we have and everything else, it's all come together, sure. But early on, I was able to find that I was comfortable on Lighthouse. I understood how to get from here to here because he had shown me a couple times, and like I was starting to process everything and understanding how the maps work and rotations and all that. And I was able to just like that was my crutch, right? That was where I went when I needed things and needed to get things done. And from there, it just evolves, like you said. So yeah, it is one of those many tools that are out there that new players should definitely consider looking into. Um, you can get a lot
That's
of
it.
good value from it for sure.
And Tarkov's intimidating for new players, and as a solo player, I was always intimidated by, going up against 2 man or 3 man or 4 man. But the more I played, the more I learned Tarkov is actually one of the only games where, as a solo, you still have a good chance to win that fight. Like, if you know where to position yourself and if you can hit your shots, it's much easier to win a fight against a group in Tarkov than other games, because you don't have to put 30 shots into them and knock them down and break their shields and then they can res each other. Like, you headshot them, they're dead, and they're not going to res their guy that's dead. Like, he's dead. So it's like it's not as intimidating as people think. You can go in as a solo, and as long as you learn, what the best play is and how to move, like, you can survive. You don't have to have a big team.
Right. Absolutely. And there's a lot of advantages you get as a solo or even duo, right?
Absolutely.
You have the
Yep.
audio advantage, you have the
Shoot
whole
everything. You don't have to
able
worry. You can just shoot
yeah,
everything.
exactly. Not a lot of questioning involved, not like, "Oh, is that you on 3rd? Is that you on 2nd?" Like, who's where,
Right.
and then you're dead. The stuff just kinda comes with
The
bigger
few
groups,
times
and it's
we've ran like a 5 man, I hated it. Like, it was just way too much. I could not do it.
for certain things, it's okay, like, if we're going on in Labyrinth per se, for instance, like, that's a situation I could see a 5-man being okay. I'm not a fan of it, definitely not a fan of going from spawn to resort and then down into Labyrinth, but, like, if we all 5 make it in, that'd be cool. The Korovat event, I could understand running 5-man groups, but, yeah, I'd preferably either duo, solo, and on a rare occasion, more so lately, I'll run in trios, but those I typically just hang back and, like, let the guys up front do their thing, and I'm just kinda there to help if needed.
But that's
But,
kind of the point, is all those styles are viable. Like, solo,
right.
duo, trio, like, you're not really at a disadvantage. Like, obviously you are if you're solo and you got more people to kill. But at the same time, like I said, if you know how to go about it, you can kill those people before they really even have a clue where you're at. Like, it's something Tarkov does that not many other games ever get right. Like, they make it just so difficult to kill a team just because of the mechanics they put in the game. But Tarkov has a simple mechanic, and that's headshot them and they die.
And that really just sort of leans into more of the fact that, Tarkov doesn't hold your hand. In lots of other games that are team-based games, you'll be able to see on a map where your team members are at any point. Um, you'll be able to see a whole bunch of that information. Maybe it's got a bit of an X-ray or an outline thing that happens, when they're around a corner or this or that. That you might not be able to do friendly fire, for example. Tarkov, yeah, I've definitely killed teammates. Yeah, a lot of times. I
Mhm.
know we all have.
Yep,
Yep.
all of us have.
Even
I
as
know. I know
duoing,
we all
like,
have.
And
Adam
they
and I
keep
So
did
saying that
used
to
to pride
someone in there.
ourselves I was gonna say, Adam and I used to pride ourselves on how little we had killed each other, and then we went on this streak of, like, just accidentally killing each other over and over, so
But to be
it
honest,
happens, even as careful as you can be.
we've been very good about it. It's been minimal, so much that we can probably remember every single time it's happened. Um, but yeah, I know
Shoreline was my
it's
favorite.
yeah, we've had some weird ones.
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely remember every time I've killed a teammate. I'm reminded of it constantly. Uh,
Yeah, that too, right?
Yeah, we always
oh,
throw
Have you ever
shots at
killed,
each other.
a teammate with, like, 17,000 hours that's, like, really pushing fights and, like, doing some crazy shit, and you're just like, "I'm gonna take him out." Does that happen,
I've
or
definitely been killed by a teammate who's got 17,000 hours and was pushing a scav on the first day of PvE release. We've gone, oh, we'll check this out. brother, we're the only two humans on the
We're
map.
the only ones. Yeah.
I was testing friendly fire in PvE mode. No one else should have done it. You know what? These are the
Yeah.
sacrifices that I make for the community.
We need answers. Yeah.
Well, it's in there.
So
It's definitely in there.
Yeah.
yeah,
For
so
sure is.
it's but yeah, look, it really goes to show that I think that is a viable play style in any of those different formats, and that not one is any more powerful than the other. Like, it's often something we'll hear from, or like you'll speak to inexperienced players, or you'll speak to those earlier hour gamers, and if you are under 1,000 hours, to me, young children, you are
Yeah.
definitely
Indeed.
early hour gamers
Indeed.
in the
You're in
world
the
of
infancy
Tarkov.
stage for sure.
You're still a timber.
Correct. When they're going, oh, just the 5 bands are impossible to beat. It's like, they're actually, like, they're as confused as you are. You just can't hear their communications when
Yeah.
they're all in dorms and you're in there somewhere with them, and they're going, is that you? Is that you? Which floor are you on? Are you here? And then all the comms are just jammed up with people going, no, I'm sitting in 114. I'm not coming out. I'm not coming out.
I'm
Kill
over
anything
here. I'm
out
in
there,
green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bang, 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 bang. Divide and conquer. Take them out one by one.
Yeah.
And just move, flank.
Yeah.
Don't just sit in a room. Yes,
Never sit in one
the-
spot. Yeah.
the 5-man will come and get you when they all fight and go, yeah, I think he's here. Yep, he's here. Cool. All right, he's there. He's been there for 5. Let's
Yeah.
throw in 5 grenades at once. He's
Yeah.
probably fine at this
He's
point.
cooked.
At the end of the
Yes.
day, a 1v3 is just 3 1v1s.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, it is. It is.
And when you learn to start utilizing cover and having some form of something that you can just use for movement to conceal you for even just a second, right? You're able to reset fights over and over and over. And that's such a huge part of Tarkov. Because the one thing I say, it sounds kind of dumb because it's a game, but it's like we're shooting bullets at people. They're going to fuck them up. They're going to hurt.
Yeah.
Sure, you need to learn to hit your shots, but I think utilizing your movement and cover and just being smart and calm, staying calm is a big part of it. That'll come with time.
Yeah, it's
But yeah,
a really valid point, right? Like, you don't have to win the fight on the first engagement, or the first sighting, if that is. There's
Right.
plenty of times, and I catch myself out for it all the time. I'm like, oh, there's a guy, I'm just gonna mag dump him. Nope. There was 3 other guys behind him.
There was 3.
And that,
Yep.
I got him,
Yeah.
and got everyone else. Sit, analyze a little bit, take a look, take stock. Don't run, walk, listen. And maybe just shoot him in the leg a little bit. Maybe you get a little bit of shot in the arm. Move, go flank. Now he's one less leg, one less arm. It makes that you can death by 1,000 cuts, if you will, is definitely a viable strategy here. And as Afraid said, a 1v3 is just 3 1v1s.
Right.
Do a little bit of damage at a time and keep them on their toes. And you'll win that fight most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of, especially if you get against a couple of guys that are still lower hour count, you hit them in the arm and black it out. They're almost instantly falling out of the fight and doing surgery and trying to fix themselves up to get back in it, not realizing they can still fight through it. And a lot of times, like you can offset the numbers without even getting a kill. Tarkov is just so good for that kind of stuff. Like when it comes to the firefights, you are locked in to being able to win every fight you're in. Even when you're the inexperienced player versus a Chad, like if you're willing to try and shoot and just take your chances, you can win those fights.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get somewhat back on topic. We have been here for a minute and still have a couple subjects that I would love to touch on. Let's talk a little bit about Terminal and what you guys can tell us about that. Any new information you might have, or even just like things you noticed or picked up on, how it played out, and just that kind of thing, if you don't mind.
So I'm gonna do this in a little way that I'm gonna try not to add any spoilers into it, but I'm gonna give you sort of what I saw and what I'm kind of expecting from it. So I guess as everyone knows, Terminal appears to be very much a player versus AI type of arrangement. There are new factions in there that we've seen. It was interesting to go into it because it plays so differently to every other map. You don't go in like you have a kit, but the kit isn't present. There's a bit of a clip that runs at the start where you are basically crossing the threshold into Terminal. And in doing so, you've had to hand over something. You've done something through the quest line that has meant that you have an object that the people that are manning the gates in and out of Tarkov are willing to give you the time of day for. And I
Right.
don't know what it is. I can describe it, but it probably wouldn't help anyone. It's a box with a couple of
It's a
handles.
box. Yeah.
Exactly. So it is
And it says a
something that
word.
is obviously, yeah, and it's something that is important. And they are willing to bring you in, but obviously whatever you've taken in there is something that is wanted by others, and they are willing to come and get it. So the way that it played was very, very interesting, and I get the feeling that it is not something where you'll be able to go, hey, I've done Kappa, I'm at the end. Do you guys just want to repeatedly run Terminal as a group?
Right.
I get the feeling that it's something that you won't have multiple opportunities to do without going back and doing something else. So
Resetting. Oh,
yeah.
okay. Are
I
you saying go back and reset or go back and like restart a task line before we
uh
continue on?
undetermined. Look, I'm a
Okay.
bit of a sadist in that I actually secretly hope that it is very much
You
a
have to reset.
oh yeah, like dead
Yeah,
is dead.
same here.
Like
Same.
if
Yeah,
you attempt terminal and you die, that's it. That's your white
that's
brother.
sick. I would love that.
GG's. Like that would be cool, and that speaks volumes to what Tarkov is, right? The accumulation of
It does.
skills, time, resources, everything to get yourself prepared for this final moment. But brother, I'll tell you right now, what I have played of Terminal, I'm never fucking escaping, bro. That shit was hard. That shit was hard.
I've heard other
Great
people say the
fun,
same
but
thing.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the
other
one
people
thing
say
that
the
has
same
been the
thing.
general consensus is it is hard. The Black Division are, which you guys can probably speak to in just a second. The Black Division are insane, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like they are. I mean, they have the boss AI side of things, right? Like killer slides out, gets you in the first frame. They were a little bit more forgiving than a power sliding killer with Igolnix, but
Fair.
definitely scary, and definitely in some places that we weren't. I mean, you don't know what to expect going into it, and especially like this was like
I like that.
very fresh for us because we hadn't
Right.
seen any footage. We got effectively they sort of led you into a little room at TGS, set up with a bunch of computers, and you'd go through your play session, and there'd be a bunch of explanation. And this would have been the same for PAX, of course, as well, and
Right.
Paris Game Week, and then obviously G Star as well potentially. And you'd get given a very rudimentary map of like, hey, here's where you're starting, here's kind of where you want to get to, and then you need to get to over here. Cool. All right, that's cool. We can follow with that. But there's a
Right.
lot going on in that map that just distracts you. Have a look. I mean, the first time I played, because we got to play a couple of sessions, and obviously, if you died pretty quickly, you'd have the opportunity to load in again.
Reset again, and then yeah.
Absolutely. And I just kept looking at things. I kept wandering off the beaten path and then going, "Oh, what's over here?" Am I going to discover a secret that no one else has had the opportunity to discover? No. That's
Right.
where Black Division is. Don't go that way.
Don't
So
go there. Yeah.
maybe on the next one, I want more than 2 minutes of playtime. So we'll try again.
And it's also with all this going on, that you're living in and fighting in, there's also things happening to the map, right? Crane falls
uh,
and like stuff happening and things,
yeah.
or was
There's definitely a few of those things that happen a little bit further on. My duo partner often that I had, wasn't afraid, by the way. I definitely had a couple of newer players. One of my duo partners at one point was looking at the keybinds, so I didn't have a lot of backup.
sick.
Afraid might
Yeah.
be able to speak more to getting further through that map.
Yeah, so it was interesting, right? There are definitely dynamic elements to it, not just in what happens on the map, as in your traditional, oh, you walk up, you've gone through this thing, now something happens, but
Right.
expect there to be a chance of, and I'm trying, how do I put this without making it a spoiler? But
We've
depending on
already,
the
just to be fair, we've already went over supposedly the majority of some of it with Opachkity and stuff, so viewers would be prepared for spoilers to this degree if it's terminal
fantastic.
related. I think.
Okay.
I think. I think. And I think it's
Ex-
okay too because they love the shit. So
Yeah.
Excellent. So look, if you don't want a spoiler, maybe skip forward 10 seconds. But
close your
yeah.
ears for
So
5 minutes.
that's exactly. So there's not just things happening in the map, as in the map changing dynamically around you. There are chances for bosses to spawn. There are chances for, when I say bosses, I mean like we had one run through where Gluhar appeared, right? And it was like,
Oh shit.
what is he doing here? Why is this
Right.
happening? Why is he on this side of the wall? Like lore wise, how did this happen? Like, why is he, guarding it all? And from
Wait,
what
you
I'm
said
told,
what?
apparently he's not the only one. So
They're
I
guarding
think that there's
something?
going to be. Well, I don't know, right? They
It
came
seemed
he
that way
came
though.
out of a he came out of an area that we knew, or we at least thought we needed to go through, and it was sort of like, is this important? Should we be caring about this, or is this a random world event? And unfortunately, we didn't get to like dive into that too much more because
There.
yeah, we both kind of ate it right after that. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
really interesting to go. He was not there for the previous run through that we did, that we got to this point. Why is he here now? Have we done something to trigger that, or is it just a random? We rolled the dice and congratulations, now you've got Gluhar.
oh, so it's not even guaranteed that the boss will spawn that in that location, like for that situation?
We
Or it
made it
is
to that
guaranteed, it's
point.
just
Well,
sorry.
I don't know because we made it to that point twice, and he was only there one of those times. So I'm not
Well,
sure.
Radio
And
and Opatch Kid said the same thing. They only had Gluhar once, and they said the next time that they weren't there.
yeah, and
So there you
it's
go. I
even
guess we're piecing the puzzle together there, maybe.
So what
for
about
sure. And
other
I mean,
bosses potentially or no?
they could be. We
Heard it was
definitely
random.
asked. Yeah, we definitely asked the questions, right? And even being considered internal people at BSG at an event like TGS, right? We're sort of more on the BSG side than we are on the general public side. Um,
Right.
yeah, we didn't get those answers, man. They didn't. It
That's fair.
wasn't
That's fair.
In fairness,
tight-lipped.
verbatim, the response was expect more.
Expect more.
So
Okay.
I don't know if that means
Sick.
expect more bosses, if that means expect more dynamic things to happen. Your guess is as good as mine. But yeah, we got
You didn't really surprise me.
the cheeky smile when when we got that answer.
Right.
So I don't.
Nice. That's awesome. As you're fighting through Terminal to get to that point, is it a constant influx of Black Division? How extreme would you rank the process of getting to even the first boss or the first door or whatever it may be?
I mean, it for me. I felt like Black Division. I did even ask the question, and again, it was just sort of a figure it out. But I did ask the question of like, are they from a game design perspective, like were they trying to keep you on the right track, right? Like if you strayed off in the wrong direction somewhere, it seemed a
Right.
bit quieter to go around that way, but like now suddenly Black Division are popping up from the other side of a train line, and it's like, well, okay, should I have not gone this way? Did it feel like it was trying to create like a bit of a linear pathway to get me through to my weapons, to get me through to the other components of that map? Don't have a solid answer on that. It felt a little bit that way, but then also in following playthroughs as well, it was like, no, I've double checked. This is the rudimentary map. I'm in this spot. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And now there's fucking Black
Yeah.
Division. And they shot me again. So, yeah, it's hard to tell at this stage.
And I
But
kind of
definitely
hope it keeps
it's
that randomness to it, right? Like that would be a
yes.
better experience
Yeah.
overall.
There's there's a lot of onslaught there, and I felt like for the first 30 seconds it was very same. Scavs were popping up in the same spots, this and that. Like you'd be like, yeah, cool. There's 5 that come from there. There's 3 that come from there. But as soon as you sort of got around that first corner, Afraid, was it the same for your playthroughs as well? Because we never actually played directly with each other. Same session, but not as a duo. But yeah, I felt like it just got a bit past that first 30 seconds, it started to get a bit different and a bit more random. I died to mortars at one stage. Like, that didn't happen in
Mm.
following runs.
Oh,
It seemed to be, for me, it seemed to be a combination because we kept like there were a couple of points that I remember very specifically where I don't know if you remember the long road, and you're kind of behind the bus and the truck, and there are two Black Division at the end of the
Yes.
road. And I knew that, so I would swap the optics around on my weapon so that I could kill those two. And the first time I did it, like we got into a pretty drawn out fight. We had a couple of like normal AI scavs wandering behind us. And then the second time I went through and we killed them and it was fine. The third time we went through, and as we were fighting them, another Black Division came out from like the left-hand side of the road that was not there in the previous two runs. So it felt like Black
Hmm.
Division were fixed and the scavs were random. And then we had this Black Division AI out of nowhere that had not been there any previous time. So I don't know. It was like not enough playthroughs to go, okay, that AI didn't wander in from somewhere else, but he certainly wasn't there for the previous two.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
This could be
takeaway is
interesting.
it felt scripted from a narrative perspective, but it didn't feel choreographed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
So, which was good, and I like that because I mean,
It's what
we've
you
all
want,
played
right?
linear
Yeah.
story mode games, and you're like, yep, two enemies on the left, one on the right, this and that.
Yeah,
It's
it
the
just ends
same
up being a
every
speed
time.
run. Right.
Correct. Yeah, I look forward to people speedrunning this. I don't know how consistent that's going to be in times.
Yeah, and I also wonder, like, how much, because there's the fighting between RUAF and Black Division going on while you're also in the process of fighting Black Division and Scavs and all these other things. And I know there's some teamwork with you and RAF to a degree, like they'll kind of cover for you in some spots and things. But I kind of wonder if as Black Division is killing through RUAF, depending on how quickly they get through that team of RUAF soldiers and stuff, like maybe they're the ones that are flanking around from a different side. Like how dynamic is their pathing essentially? Like what are they capable of doing in those regards? So I am very curious to see how it actually plays out and like how you can kind of start to put the pieces together a little bit more. But is that a thing that I'll ever even see? Well, who knows? But
And
there's
I
a
think
lot of
you're
questions
right.
about it.
I think there definitely was some movement through there that changed because there were a couple of times that you see the fighting back and forth between the Russian forces and Black Division, and there were also times that we came through and it was like, okay, they're already dead. Like we got here and they're down. But we didn't see any additional AI moving around. Maybe they still do. Maybe they have pathing, and if they happen to get a few lucky shots off, then they get to steamroll straight through those forces, and then the next part of the map is going to be quite different for you.
And that would kind of make the most sense, right? Because then it's much more lived in and it feels much more real for the player as they're progressing through the area. Even from playthrough to playthrough, you'll still remember certain aspects of it, especially for intense fighting areas. They next playthrough through may not have anything going on there. So it's kind of a cool thought.
Yeah.
Um,
And then look, not just that, but it also means that, there's a few different ways of doing it. Will you find the run easier if you pause for a moment to support the soldiers and fight some Black Division, in the middle before moving forward? Will it mean that, you now only have
True.
to face one or two compared to four or five?
That's very true because it would work with both ways if that's how it was being played out.
For sure. And
Man, there's
yeah, there's so many questions it raises, and like I suppose something to take into consideration is everybody who was playing it, we were all time limited in how long we could play for, right? So
true.
the objective was to see as much as possible, um as much as humanly possible when you're up against Black Division and things. But the reality is maybe this isn't something that should be rushed. Maybe you do need an hour. I don't know. Maybe this is, a very lengthy process. We also only saw the first bit of terminal. Is there more? Is there another
True.
cutscene that happens thereafter that takes you somewhere else? Um, it was really refreshing having like cutscenes in Tarkov though. Like
Yeah, that's
that was cool. And it got me thinking like, is that they're not just going to hold that for the end game for the 2% of people that are going to, be able to escape
Right.
Tarkov.
Got to be
right.
more than that.
Right. I then look forward to what that means for the rest of the game. What does your very first raid in Tarkov look like? Is there a cutscene there? Who's introducing you to something? Is there, what does all of that look like? So, yeah, they've definitely been cooking the whole dynamic around the cutscenes, the way it interacts with it, and all of that. It's really really cool.
Well, one more
For
quick
sure.
side note on Black Division. We had talked to a few people that had played it, and some of them seem to think that the AI was a little more advanced or that they were moving differently than the normal AI. Did you guys notice that, or have you had anybody say that?
Uh, so you see them. The first time you die to them because they're a little bit off in the distance. First time you die, and then it comes up on the death screen, black division. You go, ooh, okay, cool. This is new. Let's keep an eye out for this. Second roll, you go in. You start treating them, and you go, in your head, you go, cool. Are they a bit like rogues? Are they a bit like boss AI? Is it a bit, um, it definitely it felt like a new experience. It wasn't something that was instantly counterable because an experienced player knows how to abuse the AI, go around this corner, hold this angle, do this, yeah. Hard to tell on the limited playthrough we had, and to be fair, we probably had more playthrough than, I'd say I've probably played as like more terminal than most people have at any of these events, just getting a second look in as well. But it's yeah, it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say.
Can
It
you
it definitely felt new and not stale or expected, if that makes sense.
Nice,
can
yeah.
you speak on how they were they more of a tactical elite type group that were robotic in nature to the degree like they were hardened trained professionals and things like that? It's not anything like what we faced previously. Even when you consider
It's
like the goons and things like that, from what we've heard, they seem like they would be much more tactical and much more, experienced. Like they were, they'd done
Yeah,
this a
they're
time or
using all
two.
kinds of different
yeah.
tactics.
Look, I think given that we've found them in a few different positions and they seem to move through the map and things like that, coordinated and tactical is the only way to describe them. Even
Fair
one
enough.
of the off the beaten path routes I went through, which is down like via the train line. I'm like, man, maybe this is a little bit of a shortcut. Let's go and have a look over here. Yeah, it wasn't. When you come around a corner, right? And there's you might find Rashala and his guards, right? And they're all in a cluster. They're all in the one spot. And if you're actually
Right, just all
fast enough, you
standing
can
there,
pretty
yeah.
well headshot everybody within the same, few inches.
Right.
Um,
Right.
they they appeared over a train line spread out in formation. So, it
Yeah,
wasn't
that alone is it's different.
yeah, like and it wasn't I came around the corner and they were all spread out there up the train line. I came around the corner, I walked up the train line for a little while. Now I'm in the middle of their formation that's, 5 or 6 AI wide. There isn't a path that I can quickly duck back around a corner or run away. Like I'm here with my pants down now. Like I'm fucked.
Right.
That's awesome. So they're not just
So
like they think they hear you or see you and they're mindlessly voice lining and like letting themselves be known, right? They're
y- yeah,
obviously
no,
trying to
it
trap you
was
to some form.
yeah, it was a legitimately scary experience in the horror game that is Tarkov.
Yeah.
And it's unscary because we haven't had that in a while.
Yeah, and I mean they are still Tarkov AI, right? Like, we had
Of course.
instances where they were shooting us through bushes despite never really seeing us. And, I had one
Right.
where I forgot to change magazine, so I was shooting 545 PS at, 120 odd meters, and I shot one in the head 3 times before it died, and it just sat there while I shot it in the head. So there's still elements there, but I think
Right.
some of the pathing changes and the way that they, because like scavs will call to each other and they do that kind of stuff now, but they haven't really
Yeah.
done a whole lot with it. Like they'll call to each other and you kill one AI scab and then you'll have like 5 more that will come through. And that's sort of the limit of the logic. I think they've actually taken that and built upon it a bunch, but that core underlying AI little bit of craziness that we always see in Tarkov, it still exists, which means that I think we'll see people. I mean, there's 2 parts to it. One is it'll be a little bit frustrating when they shoot you through bushes still, but it means that if you are a player who is experienced in Tarkov and you jump into terminal for the first time, if you are smart about it, you have every opportunity of making it through.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the fact that most people that played had a limited time, so it's like no one really knew exactly what to make of it. They were all kind of just guessing. But from the people we had talked to, they all kind of said the same thing. They all thought, they were just a little more tactical than normal. But like I said, limited play time, it's really hard to tell.
For sure.
Yeah, and
And it is
there's a
something
lot
new. So
going
it's
on.
right,
There's a
right.
lot to
Yeah,
take
that
You're
in.
already
too. That too.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're taking in all this environmental detail and everything else, and then on top of that, looking at the RUAF because they got on some cool gear and stuff like, they're new, and then you have Black Division fighting you and everything. It is a lot to take in, and it is hard to process everything. And we're just trying to put pieces of the puzzle together from what we've heard and from what you guys are telling us now and everything else. Adam, do you have any more questions about Terminal specifically before we move on to the next subject?
No, I mean, that pretty much covers everything I had.
Okay. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up or talk about Terminal before we move on?
No, I think we've pretty well covered it all. I say we're going to find out in about a month. The reality is, I think it'll take a little bit longer, being that it's end
Yeah,
game content.
yeah.
But I think this side of Christmas, I think we'll have some answers out there in the world. If even if it's something you're not able to personally achieve at this time in your Tarkov career, there'll definitely be answers for us out there in the wider content creator universe, at least.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
for
we've
sure.
been waiting for years and years and years. And while, there's people like Afraid and I and Adam who have really dove into the lore and like really tried to dissect as much as we can because of the amount of like breadcrumbs that they leave for us and little tiny pieces of scraps that we try to eat up and just figure things out. Getting those answers and like having concrete information and evidence of what took place and how it took place and why it took place. Like that is the most rewarding thing, whether I see it on YouTube or I experience it myself. I think it's just something that has been culminating itself for so long that we are all patiently or impatiently and anxiously waiting
Yeah.
for some sort of like insight to and it's awesome and it kind of speaks again on the passion of how the amount of passion BSG has for Tarkov and the community and everything else, because they haven't just released some slop and pushed it out to us. They've really taken their time to craft the story they wanted to craft, and they've done it in a way without like ruining all of that for us. Even though we've been doing this for years and years and years, we still have all these questions that are just like dying to be answered. Um, and that's just awesome. And you got to appreciate BSG for that kind of stuff. Um, but moving on to the next subject, which is more, I guess, in-game kind of spoiler-heavy stuff, the Icebreaker Ship. Do you guys have any information that you can talk about Icebreaker Ship or how potentially it may come into play? And if not, what are you guys' thoughts and opinions, and like, how do you feel about that potentially being let's start with, are you aware with the Icebreaker Ship stuff, Trent? I don't want to like ruin.
Look, no, marginally. Definitely been involved in a lot of Sons of Soon conversations and keeping tabs
Yeah,
on Nolan's Discord, for example. Like I said,
fair.
as much as I try and ignore it, it's inescapable a little bit, and I do get very curious. So yes, yeah, partial knowledge there. So definitely don't
Okay,
hold back on
so
my account.
with it being a potential ending for the game, like, what are you guys' thoughts and opinions and insight on any of that kind of stuff you might have?
Yeah, look, I mean, no further insight than what's out there at the moment.
Right.
Again, like there's nothing we've had access to in the capacity of our roles, for example, or conversations with BSG that's sort of given too much of that away. And anytime we do ask a question, it's a cheeky Russian smile and a that
Of
look
course.
that says you'll find
Right.
out soon.
You'll get there. You'll get there. Yeah.
um, but yeah, like I love the idea of having multiple endings, though. I love the idea of having, even in something that does seem a little bit, there's some dynamic elements, a little bit linear, something like Terminal, Escape from Tarkov. I do love the idea that there's still that replayability, and something that perhaps next wipe I will go for, or the following wipe, I will do something else. Like
Right.
yeah, I love that. I look forward to it.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
it
Yeah,
works. It works with the BSG ethos of make it the game that you want to play.
for sure. Um, what do you think about the new opportunity to have this permanent character that's always available to be played with no wipe, right? And then you have your seasonal characters. Is that like a something that you guys are pretty hyped about, or do you think it might break something in some way, or do you think it's going to split the player base because they'll have to do separate seasonal servers versus a permanent server? Um, just general thoughts and opinions on it.
Yeah, look, I'm actually now. I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm actually excited for it, and I'm all about it for two reasons. Because I'm going into it under the assumption that a seasonal character versus a permanent character are all going to be played in the same world, right?
Hopefully,
So
hopefully,
if it's all in the same world, all in the same servers, that type of thing, it means that if you are a more casual or a lower hour player or whatever it might be, you can or the 3 hours a week you get to play, and you get to keep that progression that you make all the time. But if you are a real, I call them lovingly degenerates, it
For
means
sure.
that you have prestiging, right? It's like prestiging in that you get some unique unlocks. You get some unique rewards for doing things that not everyone is going to be willing to do or able to do. So you're
Right.
being rewarded
Right.
for your time. So I know that a lot of people love the start of Wipe because it's a level playing field. Everyone's level 1. Within a few days, the degens have already pulled ahead. We know that
Yeah,
that's
it's
going to happen. It
already
happens every time. Yeah. And I think that the fact that people are willing to prestige, and we see that with the players that are really experienced, they're happy to go in and hit that prestige button because they know that they can just do it all again. It doesn't matter that they're
Right.
coming up against players at a level 50, level 60, whatever, because they've got the experience, the know-how, and the confidence to go and do it anyway. So I think that by putting in seasons, we'll start to see players, getting really, really into that because it gives them new content, it gives them new things to work towards. And for the players that are not willing or not able to put in the same amount of time, their time is still valuable, right? It's still being rewarded. You're still working towards something, even if the goalposts and the rewards haven't moved like they have for the people that are willing to do a prestige or to do a
Right.
seasonal character.
Do you think that's
Do you
gonna get rid of the early wipe feel for Tarkov? Like, just never have that feel again?
Look, I definitely think it will, and I think there's a lot of people that really, really enjoy that. The As you get more experience in the game, though, I find, and this may not be the same for everyone, but it's certainly how it is for me. I actually quite dislike the early wipe, right? And the reason I dislike the early wipe is I can never have enough ammo. I can never have enough magazines. It's always I quite often play solo at the start of wipe, and I'm often going into really, really confident, really inexperienced five mans, and it's just frustrating because your guns are loud. I know that I can win the fight, but I don't have enough meds, I don't have enough ammo for when the next team inevitably come along with far too many players and way too much confidence. At that point, I'm in tatters, and then after that the player scavs come in. So I find it very, very frustrating, and I think a lot of really experienced solo players are probably going to be in a similar boat to me. I know that there's a lot of people in the OC community that have 10,000 hours and a real hatred of the player scav component of the game. So I think that it's kind of in a way addressing both groups. I think you'll still get that feeling because the people that really enjoy it, the degens that like everyone being on a level playing field, are going to be okay with it because the level 40s, the level 50s, the level 60s that you're going up against are going to be the players that have a few hours, maybe don't have the level of. So you get a little bit of the best of both worlds in a way.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. You kind of get instead of the normal early white feel, it's going to be a new kind of feel, and it might be better than the early white feel, you know. So having the mixture might be the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
My
I
only
think a lot of it's going
concern.
to come down.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think a lot of it's going to be coming down to the implementation of it, right? Like the worry of having a persistent character has been the same worry as PVE persistent characters. For example, new quest comes out, new quest line. For me, a new wipe is less exciting for the new wipe, but it's exciting about going and getting to do things first. Or at least the first time for me, right? Like the first time going and doing this task or this whatever, or working out what the DSF flare does, or all these different components of the game that are new and interesting and exciting. A persistent character might already have that task unlocked, or is there going to be a component that tries to time gate that? Now, I don't necessarily like time gates in any way, shape, or form either. I think if you put the time
Agreed.
and effort into something, like play the fucking content, man. Like an arbitrary timer to say, no, you can't do this right now, even though you've got the entire weekend free. Um, you know, wait till
Right.
next
Wait
month.
24
Sorry.
hours. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Like I hate that. I hate that as a
It's definitely
when
not
my
a good
wife will
model to
tell me
run
it's
game.
time to go to bed. Um, the
Right.
yeah, so I don't know how that'll work, but I think we're always still going to maintain an element of just
Yeah,
because a huge component of that is the number of players coming in. A new wipe is always generally going to come with new content, especially post 1.0. Like
Right. Right.
we'll have additional DLCs and things that'll come in. So I think it won't have the same struggles as what new wipe is, but I think we'll still find that there is a lot of people still rushing those similar objectives, just perhaps at different stages. Persistent players are going to be rushing for the brand new objectives. The new the actual wiped characters are going to be rushing, of course, for Pocket Watch and going and doing
Right.
delivery from the past, and whatever other storyline components are coming in there. So yeah,
Well,
it's
you
going to
never
come down to
know
implementation.
for sure, and you
Yeah.
never know when a new player actually starts playing either, right? So those level ones that may be on a persistent level 1 to 20 or whatever it may be, they may be starting their early wipe 6 months in, 5 months in. So you never really know what you're going to get entirely. I
Yeah,
think you will
level's
have
not
the
gonna mean as
whole
much.
yeah, but I do think you'll run into like that PvE problem kind of currently where it's like, oh, I've just gotten too far into the game. There's not much for me to do. But I think that's where the players have to start making that conscious decision to give up on trying to hoard everything and keep everything and think that Tarkov is something in that plays good in that way. And they'll start to realize like, oh, wiping my account and doing these things over, that's Tarkov. That's the fun. That's where I'm getting my experience from. That's where I'm, running into the most players and doing the most stuff. Not sitting here at level 70 something with everything I need and all these task completions and nothing to do in the game. And I'm
Right.
just
Run
running
the
raids
best
to run
kits
raids.
every
Like,
time.
yeah,
Yeah, no
Yeah,
struggle,
and
plenty of
and
money.
there's gonna be people who hold on to that and don't want to give that up. That in their own right is their own achievement. They're proud of that. That's why they
right.
want to
Right.
hold on to that. But I think this is where the prestige system is going to come and save that element of the game, right? Like
For sure.
having a persistent character and being able to work through in your own time towards things like prestige, which is effectively a self wipe. Start back with very little, go back through everything again. It's still a persistent character in that your progression is still maintained. Your progression towards achievements and things like that will still
Right.
be maintained. Getting tracksuit, well, yeah, maybe you can do that across a couple of years. Only insane people do that in a wipe. I don't have tracksuit. I don't. I
I don't
don't think
either.
I could ever
I don't
bring
either.
myself to do it, even as an
I
interchange
don't
main, right?
want
Like
to go kill 100 times. That sounds miserable to me.
it's not something I want to do. But I think having that prestige system there and people being able to do it in their own time is definitely something players want. And like I said, I think that's
For
going to
sure.
reset those bounds. Like I don't looking 3 years ahead, I don't think we're gonna end up in a situation where the new wipe for the wiping characters comes through, and if those persistent characters are playing on the same servers, which from someone from a smaller region, I really do hope that that's going to be the approach that they take. Anytime I hear about splitting up lobbies any further than it already is,
Right.
in
Right.
smaller
Yeah, it seems
regions, just
impossible.
means like it just doesn't work here, man. It works
No.
NAEU, most of Asia, it's fantastic. It's excellent. Here it's just like, yeah, cool. The game's going to feel even more dead. Not that it does. At wipe time, it's brilliant, but if you're many months into a wipe, it's certainly a bit quieter. So yeah, that prestige I think is going to be what saves that, because I don't think you're going to have in 3 years a larger majority of the player base all sitting at level 60 or 70 or whatever with
Right.
everything, because they're going to want the rewards that come with prestige 7 or 8 or
Right.
whatever gets
Exactly.
unlocked at that stage. So yeah,
Well,
I
and it's
think it's a
just the natural
really
progression for players too, right? You wanna
absolutely,
you
yeah.
you you wanna hoard your stuff, you wanna keep your stuff, but then you start to get over that gear fear, and then you start to get over the fact that, like, you really don't need any of the shit that's in your stash, and then you start to realize, like, "Oh, well, if I already don't care about these things and I just prestige, like, I reset, I get to do the tasks that I had a blast doing, I get to do all this," and it's just like it's just the
Listen,
natural step
it's
for things.
the only thing that matters in this game is the drip that you unlock, right?
All day long,
That
all
is
day long.
that is all that matters.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to kill Killer 100 times, but they do want a tracksuit. Nobody wants to, go and do snowball, but they do want the drippy rewards that come with that. And
for
obviously,
sure.
prestige for the first 4 iterations of that. Some of those rewards are kind of cool and kind of cool to have
For
permanently.
sure.
Um,
Yeah,
you know, I guess we'll see what happens. Nikita at TGS was teasing the Prestige 5 symbol on a dog tag that he was wearing for part of that.
yeah, I
So
saw
Yeah,
that,
I
you know,
yeah,
noticed that.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So there's definitely things that are in the background and happening for those later Prestige levels, and BSG know well ahead of time that they have to they want this game to continue long term. They want this game to be interesting long term, and they also really do try and give as much content for the true degenerates, the true believers,
Right.
to do as possible. So yeah, they're definitely working on more and more of those prestiges as well.
For sure.
You know,
And Nikita said too, like at minimum, right? The next 5 years are covered for planned content, DLCs, and this, that, and the other. So, and the story that they've got ahead of them for the next game, and who knows where it goes from here, right? It's
yeah, definitely. And it's look, we don't know much about what the next game is. Again, that's not
right.
something that we have
Special
any
2028.
insider knowledge on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something completely different. Who knows? You know,
Might be mobile.
Yeah, they've made a few comments back and forth.
Y'all
So
got
yeah,
mobile
it's
phones?
hard to know.
Yeah.
Definitely, and it's yeah. I look forward to 2028 release of Tarkov gacha version. But it's yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's great.
it's really hard to tell, man. It's really hard to tell. But
It is.
I've got EOD, man. I'm waiting for all the DLC I was promised. So I definitely hope
Yeah.
there's like legs in this. Like Scav Life's going to be the first one they're working on, according to Nikita from the interview he
From the
did
video,
in
yeah.
the after movie for TGS. As the most recent confirmation of that, he's been confirming it for years on and off.
Right.
I do hope there's a whole bunch of other DLCs as well that breathe additional life into this game and this universe.
Yeah, this is a game I'd like to see have that longevity that lasts, not longevity like, Bungie title like Destiny 2 currently or anything like that, Like, sure, they're there, they're, providing content, but it's not what players are in love with, and it's not what drew players into the game. And I just hope for, all of our sake, including BSG, that they do have, like, some solid 5+ years of content planned, because I would love to just be drip fed more and more and more, and but yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard to tell exactly what's going to be taking place. So
definitely. And again, they're always close to chest with this sort of stuff. There's a
right.
bunch of stuff that they've alluded to that they're working on over the years, and then we never saw anything about it
Yeah.
again. And you ask
Never
them, you're
heard
like, "Hey,
another
you're
thing
still
about
working
it.
on this?" They're like, "Yeah, man, it's a thing. It's a thing. We've got the animations for
Yeah.
it done." How many times have you heard, "Oh, we've got all the animations and everything done for that."
Yeah.
Okay, so put it in the game. Let's have a look. We want to play it.
Yeah,
I think they're holding a lot of stuff back for 1.0.
So many
rightfully so,
times
and they
Nikita
have
has
said that
said,
too.
yeah, Nikita has straight
Yeah.
up just said multiple times, like, I don't want to tell you guys anything because I want it to all be a surprise. So
Right. Which is cool. I'm
So
all for it.
there's
yeah, me
yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Me too.
Curiosity killed the cat too, though. So it's like we're
I mean, well, we're going 10 years in this game already. It's like asking much more from it is kind of being greedy, but I still want it. I still want new
yeah,
stuff. I still want them to keep doing it.
for sure. Um,
Absolutely.
so a couple things, or I guess one thing focused towards Arena. Um, so in that interview, Nikita says they have the new battle pass and it's like spectacular or whatever. But he also says something that I found a little odd and kind of made me want to start questioning it a bit. And he said a new functionality within the battle pass. Do you guys have any idea what that may be?
Absolutely zero on my part. I'm not sure if you got any extra info on that we hadn't discussed yet, but
Yeah, look, it's hard to say, right? Because there are obviously a few things changing with the next battle pass, but yeah, in terms of like not anything that I would say without more context. Like I think everything that we kind of know already around, the multiple options and things like that, they don't seem big enough
Is there anything in it?
for a statement like the one that Nikita made. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I would be guessing. Yeah.
Because he made that statement and he also tweeted that the new battle pass in Arena has something I've never saw in any other game before. So it's like there's definitely something there that he's hinting towards, and I'm just very curious what that could be.
Yeah, extremely. And I don't, I kind of half expected an answer for that too. But on the Arena side still, how do you guys feel about the instead of using the test servers, they're using Arena as the test bed to try out all these changes and things before implementing them into Tarkov. Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think it's potentially like harming to the Arena community because of like, oh
Yep.
well, if they're just going to use this as a test bed, or like,
I mean, they've got they've got ETS, right? Like,
Right, right.
they already have testing servers. The insight I can give you on this, and this is, maybe something they haven't voiced specifically. I think the intention though of using Arena for that is that there is becoming the conversation I had was around not a realization like they never knew, but perhaps becoming more resolute in the fact that they're understanding internally that Arena needs to become a little bit of its own game and not be as one-to-one
Yeah.
with Tarkov. It's why we've actually seen the movement changes that were in Arena were completely different to what the movement changes were in the main game Tarkov, right? Like, and I have very much enjoyed the movement changes that were in main game Tarkov. There's been a lot of feedback that maybe some of the movement in Arena was a little bit too far. But I think the reality is there's going to be obviously a lot of similarities between these games, but like, you don't want heavy inertia in a game like Arena. You want to
Right.
feel like you have fluid movement and be able to make those plays and do all of that sort of stuff, not be wading through soup, as it were, sometimes.
Right.
Or penalized because you wanted to run further or faster than other
You
people
jump
to
too
get to
many
point.
times while you're sprinting, yeah, and
Right,
yeah.
right.
You've built an arcade shooter that plays like Tarkov, and that's not exactly how Arena should play.
Correct. And by the same token, you don't necessarily want people, bee hopping their entire way across a Tarkov map to get to dorms first, or
Right.
so I think we're going to end up with two forks here, and this is very much a bit of an A/B test between what is suitable for both games, and further tweaks needed, obviously, to get to where we're happy with all of it.
I'm going to take it a step further and say that from the conversations that we had at TGS, I actually think it's going to be going more the other way, right? And by that, I mean, I think we're going to start to see some things in the main game being influenced by the things that the Arena players are enjoying. So in the things we spoke to the team about while we were over there was, there's a real push to give Arena its own life and its own path, where it's no longer just the Shift W PvP version of Tarkov if you can't be bothered loading a raid kind of thing. It's about now creating a game that is genuinely competitive and fun to play, and there are things that they're going to learn from that in the feedback that they get from the players, that they go, well, okay, maybe we need to implement this in the main game as well, because people have appreciated the inertia changes, or they've appreciated how the kits influence the way that your PMC moves and things like that. But I think that there will be a very disparate path, like Trent said, where it will fork out in different directions, because something that will be absolutely excellent for Arena will not translate well into the main game, where Arena will no longer just be PvP Tarkov. It's going to
Right.
be its own thing, and I think you won't be able to translate. I mean, you might be able to translate, your kind of game knowledge over, but I
For
think
sure.
the mechanical skill will be very different.
Well, and that
And
makes
that
sense
it needs to be
'cause
that way, yeah.
well, they can use Arena as a test bed for features, but it doesn't mean they have to implement them one-to-one in each game. You know what I mean? They can use Arena to test different things that they don't necessarily want to throw in the main game, and then implement it how they think it should fit in the main game
Well,
later.
I actually, like I said, I think it's different. I think it's not using Arena as a test bed. I think it's taking the positive elements out of Arena and applying them in some form to the main game. So things that are really well received by the Arena community, a change that they've made to make Arena better as its own game and as a competition, like a competitive game, where they go, okay, that was really well received. People are liking it. We're seeing, some really good feedback from it. Should we be entertaining this for the main game, rather than, hey, we have a new feature for the main game that we want, but we want to make sure that it works first. Let's use the Arena team as a test bed. I think that
That
logic
makes more
is now
sense,
going
yeah.
out the window. I think it's really going to be more about taking the best of both of the games and working out how they can be applied to the counterpart.
That
Yeah,
sounds
I guess
great.
And
the
it's
test bed thing could have just been lost in translation thing, because
Right,
that
it
does
happens a
happen.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing as well, like, is to consider is that Escape from Tarkov is coming to 1.0, but Arena will still be very much considered a beta. Like, it is not
Right.
seeing its full release at the same time.
Yeah, that's what we
Which
had talked
means,
about.
yeah, which means, we're still going to see changes happen, minor patch to minor patch, different things being tweaked consistently.
Right, you have a
My
synced portion of the game that play hand in hand. You'll have to keep some
Yeah,
parts of it together.
definitely, but like I feel like getting to 1.0 in Escape from Tarkov means that we'll probably see some more consistency and maybe less, I hope, less knee jerking sometimes with, things that were like, oh, we're going to do this. And then wildly, 3 weeks later, it's wildly different. And it's like, hang on, though, like, can we find some consistency with this? And that's, I think, part of what's been one of the hardest things actually getting to a 1.0 ready stage is having something that we're like, yeah, cool, we're going to set this for a little while and then make informed decisions. So maybe we will see a lot more use out of ETS. It was funny. TUE came out and then suddenly every TUE or, unheard edition person got access to ETS. And it's like, well, they haven't really done much with it.
Yeah.
They
It's
haven't.
like, yeah, well,
It feels
what did I
underutilized.
get access to? Yeah. But the reality is if you're 1.0 on something, you are version locked, and now suddenly you don't make wild changes or test things. I think we're actually going to have to revert to using ETS properly at that point.
Good.
Well, not revert,
Awesome.
but actually use ETS properly. It's my hope.
True.
Again, this is all my own opinion. I please do that, BSG.
It
BSG
would
does
make
what
sense
BSG
for them
does.
to go about it in that method. Like that makes the most sense.
Yeah,
And
it was just
ETS is there for a reason, right?
that was the conversation we had earlier when we had seen the statement, and we were kind of confused because that's what both of us said was, well, they have ETS for that. Why would they use Arena? And then also, Arena and the main game are not one to one as far as game version and update, and it just seemed
Gameplay
strange. And we
loop
were
and
like, it just
mechanics
didn't
and
make sense. Yeah. So
Yeah, and it's
after
the
hearing
other.
you guys, though, it makes more sense. What you guys are saying, though. Like,
Yeah,
I think I
it
understand it
definitely
now.
adds up now. Yeah.
the other side of it as well is the people that become engaged in each, like, they're good for testing some features and they're good probably for testing bugs, compatibility between different features and things like that. Stuff like movement, stuff that can be lean more towards a subjective feeling. Some people like Tarkov how it is now. Some people are like, no, I missed 12.9. I want no soup, more soup. It's very
Right.
subjective. So having something like that tested in a closed feedback loop of for the type of people that will play ETS. This isn't a diss on them or anything like that, but this is sometimes those players will be wildly different to and not give a good snapshot of what the wider community sentiment is towards it.
Right. You're getting
You really,
individual feedback, not
yeah, and you're really highly competitive players. They just want to keep playing Arena, man. They want to keep ranking up. They want to do all that stuff. They're not going to like reset their progress and go and play a buggy, broken version on them, like an ETS version of Arena, and dedicate the time to testing stuff there. They're gonna keep on that grind. But their feedback is super valuable. But we're just not
absolutely.
seeing that in an ETS program, for example. So, yeah, there's definitely a bit of that, like testing or ETSs have a purpose. But yeah, for the movement, it's hard, man. I think it's definitely something that still needs to be to an extent tested in main game, but obviously not once you go mainline, 1.0, like absolutely you got to segregate it off at that point. But whilst they still
Right.
quote unquote beta in Arena, I guess do a bit there.
Yeah, I don't see any harm in it, especially after you guys broke it down the way you just did. That makes a lot more sense, and it kind of puts things in a better perspective for us. Um, is there anything about Arena, Adam, that you have questions on, or
No, no,
anything else
I'm.
that you want to ask questions about at all? We've been going for 2 hours and
Yeah, we're
46 minutes. We should
almost
probably
at the
wrap it
3
up.
hours. So yeah, I'm good
Yeah.
on everything. We've gotten a ton of great information from you guys, and honestly, I appreciate everything you guys do once again, and just thanks for everything.
No, look,
Yeah, absolutely. I
thank you
couldn't
so
agree
much for
more.
having us on, and it's be a part of
Anytime you guys want to come back on and have a chat and hang out, you're both more than welcome anytime. We'd love to just chat with you guys and get
absolutely, yeah,
insight
no,
on like events happening and things the leaks or whatever may be taking place. So
Every week.
Definitely.
appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, it's been good.
yeah, had a blast.
You guys
You
want
got
to
either one of
like
you guys have
yeah,
Twitches that you want to
socials
shout
or
out or
anything you want?
anything?
Look, the major shout out, obviously, with 1.0 on the horizon is Tarkov.Community. Get involved, vote for the things that you want to see happen. Like I said, we're going to be doing a not a bit of a purge, but we're working internally at the moment in some of our updates how to make that better, more usable, more adaptive to what's going on for 1.0. Not to forget things that have been said previously or long running topics, but just really to make sure that we're not clouded with things that were important during the hardcore wipe that just certainly aren't implemented.
Exactly.
Which is really hard to do because we don't know what's coming in 1.0. So,
Completely
it's kind of
fair.
like
Yeah.
everything's important until nothing's important. I don't know. Maybe they fix all this shit on day one. But yeah, please do go check it out. Yeah, you'll find me on Twitter as well if you want that as a bit of a source for information. Afraid and I are both very close to the source. So, we tell you guys as and when we can.
All right.
Absolutely. And from my end, like I said, for I guess new and experienced players, jump over to the Sherpa Hub. For some people, it's a great place to get a leg up and overcome some of the hurdles and I guess some of the things that we can start getting locked on in our Tarkov journey. But also for those that have kind of done it all and seen it all and are looking for a way to get more involved in the community. We're always looking for more Sherpas. We generally do a couple of inductions each month to bring people in, and the more applicants we get, the more that we can support our community. And it's always good to see people coming in and getting involved with the community group.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll throw links up for everything, and I will outro this in a minute. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, seriously. This was awesome. Lots of great information. Really appreciate you both coming on. I know it was hard to kind of line up times a little bit, but yeah, thanks again so much.
Yeah. Thanks for all you guys do for Tarkov community and just for
That too.
everybody in general. Yeah, seriously, it's you don't see it very
Powerhouses of the
often.
community for
Yeah,
sure.
honestly,
You
it's
guys are
rare. It
awesome.
really is. You guys do a lot, and it's all good work.
It's certainly a collective effort that goes beyond us as well. It really does extend to all of the Sherpas, all of the helpfuls, the the coordinators of all of those programs, the emissaries, the community teams that are internal of BSG as well. All of the moderators of all of the regional discords and the main discord as well. Like we do all really just we work together. It's a big happy team with definitely no internal conflicts and no problems ever arising. It's great. No, it's I kid. It's actually it's fantastic. It's the reason why we're still here after 5+ years.
Yeah, for sure. Something has to be good about it, right? Like, there's obviously
Correct.
some greatness out there that's
Yeah,
worth
and
putting the time into.
Yep,
it's not the
good
money. I can
people.
tell you right now.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode of Talking Tarkov, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so it helps us out tremendously while keeping you up to date with everything we've got going on. Whether it's our podcast, Thursday's base game informative content and gameplay, or our Saturday arena upload. We keep quality content coming your way, and you definitely don't want to miss out on a video. We'll catch you next week. See ya.